the sizzling sausage, studs on cement, sport in the crisp wintry air. When the drawbridge goes up, see the absolute state of it. You're with Pez and Higgos, it's the Circus.
It's time for mates versus mates. It's time for grudge matches. It's time to say goodbye, and it's time to question how quickly someone can run across Australia. Yes, we're talking origin ins and most importantly outs. We're talking the return of Bailey Smith facing his old side and tries that are so good that they make the AFL media. Max Rushton joins the show to talk all things football, from the quality of Sunday League pitches to what happens if Ange wins the Europa League final tonight, and what if he loses. We're also talking sporting drama, the FA Cup, Soccer AM, and how much your dad really cares about your team. There's also some Mount Everest gear. Nick's in 6. Scottie Scheffler winning the PGA, getting 3 games for stomping on your head in rugby. Boys, actually, your hotline and everything in between. This is the Circus. Sam Perry, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, wonderful. Another big one. We've already spoken to Max. Love the chat. Just he's one of the greats, Max. He really is.
Oh, he's an all-timer.
Don't worry about that. He's an absolute A grader. Yeah. Top of the list.
Yeah.
No, he's fantastic. So looking forward to that chat. Mate, again, the intro, which is, again, riddled with errors and subject to many boys actually. And there's, and don't worry, there's fucking heaps of boys actually this week as well. But it does mention the crisp wintry air, and we're there. We're there.
Oh, big time.
We're there.
Down these parts.
Exactly. We're getting down to 1 degree here in Melbourne, and that is we're in it now. We're fucking in it.
Yeah, it feels like footy season
We're
now.
Talking origin. Mm-hmm. Some of the AFL press that's coming out is incredible.
Yeah,
At top of the tree stuff. All-timer. All-timer stuff.
Yeah.
But we've been doing Sunday Footy Feast on 7, and it feels right now.
Yep.
It feels right. We've got local footy clips coming in. Send yours in, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm jazzed.
Just to that end, we've got some analytics back of like when people are skipping to which parts of the show.
This.
Now, look, because it's footy season, okay, and because what this show is, we made a mistake last week by thinking that people would give a fuck about what was happening in the IPL, there being a war on and such. That was our mistake. We should not have spoken about that because no one, rightfully so, gives a fuck.
Yeah.
Okay?
It was we could claim it was an experiment. And so by way of background, we do, in TGC Towers, have a weekly whip, work in progress. And it was pointed out, not by you or I, that the viewing, because we have chapters on YouTube, the viewing, and I believe the words were absolutely nosedives when you mentioned the cricket tournament.
The cricket tournament.
In India.
But we were just talking about...
I like that.
We were talking about what happened to the players and how scary it would have been and getting out.
Unconfirmed reports of a military strike on Delhi from Pakistan where we were travelling. We thought it was news.
We thought it was news.
And we were wrong.
Yeah, just flat out wrong.
We were wrong.
Boys, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Who's going to play 6 for the Blues?
Fucking oath. Well, with that in mind, and we do have an official name for this now. We've been canvassing for a long time. Yeah. Your focus groups, your one-way mirrors, etc. Is that what you call it? Let me know, boys, actually. But again, a wonderful installation from the Speak Pipes, but which is now called the What's Getting Your Hotline. Let's hear it.
Oh, sorry, boys, about 2 minutes post-tug there. But fuck, any danger of the Broncos putting 80 minutes of footy together? Or?
Christ.
Once again, no Tigers players picked into the origin team for the Blues. Last year it was Madge, holding a grudge, and this year's Daly with his early phase CTE. Yet Stefano was picked from the Melbourne Storm despite having worse stats for Melbourne this year than he did for the Tigers last year. It's a conspiracy, and you're all in on it.
The biggest story this week in Rugby League is what a potential Origin player said in his Twitch stream while playing Call of Duty with his friend as a throwaway comment about not getting picked for Origin. Don't you love the mainstream media, boys? Don't you fucking love it?
Terrell May fans clearly don't know the TGC adage of what's he like as a bloke. Also, what's getting me hot. Seeing Flo on Daddy Pez's lap, what I wouldn't give to be that dog, being told I was a good boy. Woof, woof.
Fuck me. Get Mark Nawangani in a Blues jumper right now.
Kalen Ponga, ping ponga, big donger. It doesn't matter. Blues by 1,000,000.
I mean, honestly, the Gold Coast Titans would be doing better if they were running out with the third team made up of the Gujarat Titans. Oh, that's a fantasy. Shubman Gill out the back. I got to stop this. Oh.
Nine and one, brother.
1-9, boys. 1-9. The Eagles might be shit, but keep your September free because the Wallach Morawara are coming in hot.
Boys, what's getting me hot is the rumour mill of Jimmy Hurd returning to Essendon Heartland. The luscious paddocks and tarmac of Tullamarine. Post a 91-point flogging. See you later, Scotty. It's a bit like the Nationals and Liberals departing this arvo. Who said you need to keep sport out of politics? Just give me James back in red and black. Go Bears Perth.
Boys, I'd like to put the lycra out, front doorstep, ready to show the world, because Plappy won a stage of the Giro. That young man is the future of Australian cycling and has had some pretty harsh blows over the last 12 months, including that wipeout at the Olympics and then a wipeout on the very first stage and time trial of the Giro. Kudos, major kudos, and also some lycra wedgies.
You got fucking Manchester City with all their fucking money from the Saudis. You got Pep Guardiola carrying on like an absolute knob. And they can't put the ball in the back of the net against a bloke keeping in a fucking trucker cap on a Saturday afternoon at Wembley. Suck a fucker ding dong, Pep. Suck a fucker ding dong, Saudis. Suck a fucker ding dong, Man City as a club, you pieces of shit. Palace have done it. 120 years. 12th again, who gives a fuck? We've just won the FA Cup.
Boys, what's getting me hot is it took these absolute nonsense 10 episodes to realise one thing. When it comes to Wagga, you don't fuck with the Chuck. He knows his stuff. Cheers. Dad, please text me back. I kicked a goal on the weekend.
That's the punters.
What a great canvassing
That's
thoughts.
the vibe.
That's
the
really
vibe.
good.
That's the temperature around the nation and beyond.
Now, look, to my great shame, I actually haven't included Plappy's successes.
I've got Plappy.
Okay.
Don't worry, mate.
Thank God.
Don't worry about that.
Thank God that you've got my back.
Yeah.
Unlike Jerome Luai, Laurie Evans.
Laurie Evans. the Perth Scorchers middle order bat.
Laurie Evans. Laurie Daly, sorry.
Well, no one's got Jerome's back.
So do you want to start there with Origin?
Yeah, I mean that's a topic du jour in Melbourne as well. But yeah, I mean so Origin selections they come out Sunday evening. They come out after the Tigers Rabbitohs game, which was a 6:15 kickoff. It's traditionally a 6 p.m. read, but as far as I understand, boys actually. But yeah, they waited for that game to finish. And look, I think the intelligentsia of rugby league, if that isn't an oxymoron, I think they had called the team. Lot of noise for Mitch Moses coming in at 6. A lot of noise for Mitch Moses coming in at 6. He's just come back from injury. He's playing well, to be fair. Playing out of position at 6, replacing Jerome Luai. 4 premierships, was in the last Origin side. But unfortunately for Jerome Luai, apparently he's part of a Tigers team. That has won double the games this year than they've won the last couple of years. And Penrith only won 3, so I don't know. So Moses comes in for Jerome Luai. Other big notable inclusions and omissions is the centre pairing is Stephen Crichton and Latrell Mitchell. There's the Blues have got fitness issues everywhere and injury concerns everywhere. That's why they've got 22 players in their squad at the moment. We'll get to that. But Crichton should have been first pick in the side. Latrell, obviously in great form, but he's beaten out Tom Trbojevic, who some wanted to have him on the wing. They went with Lomax and Toto. But Laurie Daly seemed to suggest that he thought there may have been fitness concerns with Trbojevic.
Right.
I'm pretty sure Trbojevic was available for selection, having spoken to him. But I also think Billy Slater will be laughing his fucking head off that Tom Trbojevic is not picked and that Jerome Luai is not picked. IMO.
We were fortunate enough to go to the Origin to the second Origin game last year because it was at the MCG, and so there is some bias there from perhaps our own perspective. I could speak on behalf of you, but Luai was fucking outstanding in that game. They thumped Queensland, which doesn't often happen. Doesn't often happen that way. Can go the other way, don't get me wrong, because Queensland, want it more, etc. But so Laurie Daly has said on the decision to pick Moses ahead of Luai, says, I just feel Mitch is in great form. He and Nathan can combine really well. Kicking games in Origin are so important, and we've got two of the best kickers in the game. Mitch is great with his communication, got a great running game, all the qualities he needs to be a great six. So he's sort of talking more about Mitch Moses' capabilities, which I suppose, to be fair, Mitch Moses is no mug himself, in good form, playing good footy,
He played
etc.
excellently.
Yeah.
This is like, the most sacrilegious thing to say, but like, why was there no chat about whether they retained the halves pairing of Moses and Luai, who were part of one of the great Origin series wins, backs to the wall, instead of Nathan Cleary, whose own team hasn't performed well at all this year. It's just funny in the New South Wales team that sometimes players are included because they're just in irresistible form, and other times they're included because you want to be loyal to the squad, from last year, depending on what you think. Now, like, Blues team's still looking good, don't get me wrong, but like this has got an old-fashioned ambush written all over it, because like I look at both teams and it's like New South Wales appear to be like full of the superstars, which is the Origin trope, right? And Queensland have got blokes you've never heard of being picked, from Group 8 country rugby league. But then you look at the forward packs and it's like, no, they cancel each other out. Forward packs are great, and Queensland has an unbelievable spine. Munster didn't play last year. And I don't like to go into gambling, but Queensland's like 260 for the series, and New South Wales is 150. I mean, that to me, like, it's a joke. First game in Queensland, it's a joke. Like, So, I do like, I sort of like it. My problem with the series win for New South Wales last year was just like it was the most un-New South Wales thing I've ever seen in my life. Right. Like they had culture, they had system, they had identity, they had consistency. Blokes who came in, they were better than the sum of their parts. They never capitulated. They spirited Queensland at Lang Park in Game 3. I've never seen that in my life. I don't trust it, frankly. Yeah. And they were they were helmed by like a club coach, right, who brought that together. Right. And what I like about this New South Wales team is it's just back to the caretaker. It's just like fucking, is anyone going to do this? LD. Can you just put your hand up, please?
Who's a legend?
Yeah, and let's have a few things right. Laurie Daly is one of the greatest rugby league players to ever play the code. Yeah. And also, evidently, one of the greatest blokes of all time. Nobody in rugby league has a bad word to say about him.
One of the best schooners ever.
He must be. The schoonerage must be amazing. Shout out to Steve Smith, schooner scorer this week, by the way, as well. I think schooner scorer and Laurie Daly would be good. Now, there's a Now, that's schooner scorer doesn't often miss. You know what I mean?
He doesn't miss.
But he did miss by not getting involved in rugby league.
He's in New York at the moment, unfortunately, it seems like. But he has taken a year off his whatever job he does. So, maybe he can come back to Australia like he was a couple of months ago.
Yeah. It's just a class thing with schooner scorer a little bit. Like, I admire his work these days. I wasn't sure early on, just from an Australian perspective.
None of it makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's landed gentry, it's posh, etc. So maybe there's no alignment with league. Leagues want to be like schooner piggery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that he could reach across the divide, schooner scorer. I'm a fan of his work now. And it'd be schooner scorer and Laurie Daly. Then they might be back.
Yeah, and it's always new.
But yeah, like I don't know. I think Trebojevic should be there, and I think Jerome Luai's done fuck tons for New South Wales, and he's lost his job to somebody who hasn't played that position for several years, and it's off the back of people have evidently just saying, well, he's got a good long kicking game. It was like, well, yeah, so does Cleary, and he's a good organiser. It's like, what? How's Mitch Moses playing out of position better than a bloke who's just done the business for New South Wales?
Do you feel
has
like
won 4 comps
in Origin, like New South Wales need to be so perfect so often to win 2 games in a series that like the fear of Queensland coming over the top just through sheer spirit and will and determination, that's the fear here. Like, like when you start tinkering with some pack stuff or like just who's in form, whatever, who's going to get the job done, And also the Game 3 last year, that is a win that I feel like from a Queensland perspective would be like, this can never happen again.
Yeah.
I fear reprisal.
Well, I mean, this Origin series will go one of two ways. Like it should be, and it will be narrated this way, a Queensland ambush. I think both sides are quite even, actually, but there will be Queensland ambush. If New South Wales manages to win somehow, the entire concept of Origin will be in question.
Okay.
There's only two ways this can land, which makes it a really good series. I just get the impression like LD's he's just caretaking New South Wales and looking after some of his mates.
Yeah.
I think Luai's omission is outrageous, and that he's a great footy player. He bleeds blue. Great spirit, great standards, and he's got nobody in the press backing him up. Everyone just seems to have a hard on for Mitch Moses. By the way, I love the kid. Just old enough to call players kids.
Yeah, that's right.
I think Mitch Moses is a fantastic player. He was outstanding in Origin last year. So was Luai. Moses was 7.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that's I don't think it was a big miss, and I think if Trebojevic is fit, he should be one of the first picked, and I love Latrell Mitchell, but I think Trebojevic should get the nod ahead of Latrell.
Let's have a look at how Reece Walsh and of the Broncos and
I'm not finished, sorry.
Okay,
Terrell May as well.
Okay.
Who was called out on the What's Getting Your Hotline as
yes, of course, yeah. It was on Twitch.
As poo-pooing the selections via Twitch, playing Call of Duty, and that's always dangerous. Yeah. We know athletes love Call of Duty.
Yes, they do.
But yeah, like he's had his, I don't know if you've caught this, but like there's been several items in the media in the last week or two, what's the word, like, staff writer stuff in your Fox Sports, etc.
No one willing to put their name to this.
Indicating that, like, as Daly was organising the team, he was ringing around, the rugby league circles in looking for information about Terrell May's character, and he didn't like what he heard.
Okay.
And that is what Terrell May was responding to on Twitch playing Call of Duty, basically saying like, well, I'm not going to, like, this was before he was picked. It's like, well, I'm not going to get picked. Did you see what was in the media? Which I just, like, I think in the land of rugby league, which typically is a broad church when it comes to characters, and that New South Wales team, you don't have to look far at some of the, the rap sheet of some of its own players when it comes to characters. I just, like, Terrell May's putting up numbers this year that is in line with, like, Payne Haas. Like, there's about 5 props in this side because it's an extended squad of 22, and he's not getting a look in on that. Like, what's the rap against him? Like, as the What's Getting Your Hotline guy said, it's like, it's what's he like as a bloke. But it's like, how bad a bloke can you be in league if you're not getting touched, and like when you're literally, you've been the best prop in the competition up until Origin selection. So it's like, some guys are in great form.
Yeah.
Terrell May's in great form, but it's like, we just want to stick with the existing guys.
As someone that's as close to the game as Laurie Daly, like, who's he actually ringing around for that sort of confirmation bias? Just ringing around for character references.
I mean, it is strange with Terrell May. Like, he left the Roosters. He was axed from the Roosters in very unusual circumstances, like a great player for them last year, and then just like gone. Wasn't really, he even said, like, it was never really explained to me. I don't know any players that have been subject to like journalist speculation that the coach has been ringing around asking about his character and that don't like what they're hearing. To which, like, Terrell May on Twitch, I was going to say in the press, which it is press, it's just like, well, like, he's essentially saying like, well, they clearly like made their decision. I don't know how that would feel as a player, just to read like, they just don't like my character.
There's quite a lot of public indiscretions from league players over the over
the number of weapons knocking around rugby league. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I suppose, the thing is, it just sparks innuendo. At this stage, it'd want to be something bad with Terrell May. Otherwise, just like, and people will point to his family and stuff, but that's his family. It's not him. He's just playing good. Like, how bad can your character be if you're playing outstanding footy week in, week out with a team that's just been wooden spooners?
And you haven't done anything illegal, like in front of the courts.
To our knowledge. But I like this with New South Wales. Like, New South Wales has gone from like system, identity, consistency to Larry selections by a caretaker looking after his mates. And it does. That's what Origin is.
Yeah.
Queensland underdogs. No one rates them. Actually, a pretty good side if you have half a clue about it. Ambush is on deluxe. I'm team New South Wales by 13+. Don't get me wrong about that.
That is how you talk as we're around the office.
That's right. I can't hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting on the Broncos now. Is that right?
Yeah, okay. Well, I just want to see how Reece Walsh and the Broncos are getting on. Reece Walsh is in a bit of strife from club bosses for posting this video of him at a gathering recently.
Okay. That's Reece Walsh punching someone if you're listening on the podcast.
Bent over a couch. Oh, Christ.
Fuck me dead.
Christ. Oh, my God. Now he's not received any punishment, as I understand it, for this. But so he's got two different camera angles there. Throw that up on the old TikTok machine. But thanks, Chuck. I think that'll do before we get shadow banned. But he's punched his best mate in the head there wearing a boxing glove who's leaning over a couch, straight into the side of the head. It's popping the old temple there, and just harps you back to a simpler time, doesn't it? Sort of schoolmates, sort of.
Mate, that's what I'm saying.
A couple of King Lears knocking about.
I think the headline he says, I feel like I could choose them actions a lot better, I guess. He just says, I was just punching me best mate.
What's the big deal?
Who among us? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's still charm to rugby league, you know?
100%.
I mean, Broncos are under the pump. They're under the cosh.
Yeah.
As you'd say, but
a team that was fancied earlier in the season, just sliding down a little bit.
There's a charm. There's still a charm to it to me. Just like he's one of the best players in the game. Here's his footage of him just fucking knocking his best mate out.
Do you know the best thing about that is these guys are like the most finely tuned athletes. That, out the Eastern
He's wearing
Coast.
a Queensland polo as well.
Well, he's trying to get a gig, you know, but. I love the conversations that happen beforehand. You know, who amongst us hasn't been to the house party where this sort of thing has happened? Like the conversation's just like, I could take a punch from you for sure. I'll go on then. Fuck off.
Mate, a mate of mine who has one of the smartest guys I know, has climbed corporate and governmental ladders deluxe, could do anything he wants to. This is about 10, 15 years ago. He put in an American American football helmet on once at about 3 a.m. in the morning and begged someone to bottle him, because he just had the helmet. He just wanted somebody to bottle him. Yeah. These are the things that happen. This is what happens.
Just what happens.
I think this is just this is let boys be boys stuff for me.
Yeah.
Of course you look at those things responsibly and go, yeah, probably shouldn't be knocking guys out and then posting at the social. Yeah. There's, sponsors, etc., clubs, disrepute, Queensland Polo. There's good reasons for it.
Can go wrong.
But watch the video and look at the joy of these guys. This is how they choose to derive their joy. You know what I mean? It's sort of joy shaming to me. Broncos are in hot water. He goes, Marty Tapau, he had to front the Broncos leadership group in recent weeks. Because there was Elijah Taylor, formerly of the Tigers. He's got his Instagram. I think his handler's like Footy Hacks or something. Was talking about how much of a disciplinarian Madge Maguire is, and how people be vomiting at training, and how you have meetings for meetings and stuff like that. And that was liked by Marty Tapau, so he has to front the leadership group. Yeah, okay. Likely played last game for clubs as a headline. Broncos in further trouble, mate. The animal activist group PETA has called on the Broncos to change the club's name and logo in a bid to end the legacy of Brisbane's most iconic sporting mascot. They want it to be called the Brisbane Boomerangs. PETA's bizarre demand to kill off Broncos icon. But according to the article, the Broncos have told animal rights activists to buck off following calls for their famous mascot to be retired. So it's
brilliant.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough times at Red Hill there.
Yeah. Just in terms of Clubland, I mentioned at the top about some of the unbelievable tries we saw on the weekend. I mean, Xavier Coates climbed high for the Storm there, took an absolute specky. Probably not even close to the try. Well, I think we've just seen the try of the year from, as our friend Aaron Gox described him on Instagram, Mark N. Noah Quinitawasi for the Roosters. You might have seen it already. Double hopping, chipping the ball over onto this just in front of the.
It was the hop. It was the hop that was everything.
The coordination of that without doing an ACL.
Yeah,
it sort of hurt my
rolling
knee.
his ankle or something. Yeah.
An unbelievable bit of skill. That is going to be impossible to beat for try of the year.
Yeah,
but
it's a bit of old school. It's hard not to. recall that, remember that he's from Union. Leg before that, blah, blah, blah. But like, it was a bit of old school, like 90s rugby union creativity, like just grubbering in behind.
Yes.
It's just not something you see anymore, but there's too much structure. So
freestyle in all sports. In all sports, sort of freestyling, improvisation.
Exactly.
Improvisation you hardly see anymore in any sport.
Yep.
I guess even like in football, it's like it's dead, basically. But in cricket, it's getting so structured now as well. So, tennis, I don't know. It's all the same, just machines these days, aren't they?
It's just robots.
Anything else in league land?
I don't. No, it was just the Peter complaint. I mean, Crash Craddock has said he's got an article out here. Crash saying Paul Vaughton can convince Queensland every underdog has its day. Crash is calling for Fatty to address the team. So you can just see the Queenslanders just building up the underdog status as well.
Okay.
Genuinely don't think that their team is too mismatched to the Blues, but that's how this narrative works.
So the whole series depends on the first game.
Well, just get Fatty, have a chat with him.
All right, talk about the AFL. And of course, the main story of the past week has been Adam Selwood passing away following his brother Troy, of course, taking his own life back in February. The conversations have been, a huge support for a mental health round. I saw Paul Roos saying a couple of days ago that, it's not hurting, is it? It's not hurting to create a mental health round. I think Wayne Schwass previously has said that he has campaigned for a mental health round, and he was told previously, well, there's already so many themed rounds. How many more do we need? I think this, especially in these parts of the world, what happened over the weekend, the news that broke just before the round of games started on the weekend, it was so heavily felt here, and I'm sure, of course, in Western Australia as well. It's just, you can barely imagine the grief of the family and those that were around the Selwoods. It's just unbelievably tragic, the circumstances around it. So I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's especially on this show that we're not solving anything, but the idea of a mental health round, I think is a good thing. I mean, as I think Paul Rose is right, it's certainly not hurting anything. I don't think the answer can be to do nothing for something that affects so many people so close to the game here. Particularly in Victoria and Melbourne, but
and there's no silver bullet for these things, right? I mean, I can understand why people would be reaching for something to do,
right?
In their own way, whether or the merits of a mental health round can be debated, but you can understand why people are grasping for answers, for solutions, for initiatives to continue to highlight the scourge of mental ill health, condolences and thoughts to the Selwood family and friends. It's a shocking and tragic time for them.
Moving on to the games coming up this weekend, there's actually probably the hottest game that people will be looking forward to for weeks and weeks is the game tomorrow night at the Cattery, I think it is. It's Geelong against the Western Bulldogs. So it's all eyes on that game because of the return of Bailey Smith. Well, I say the return, it's just it's him playing against his old side. He's not returning to the Dogs' home ground. But so the history of this Bailey Smith against the Bulldogs, so to speak, sort of started because the suggestion was when Bailey Smith, he wasn't going to play into this season for the Western Bulldogs. It was thought that he sort of stopped putting in, sort of suggested that he'd already mentally checked out. He wanted to
foot off the gas kind of stuff.
Move into greener pastures. Pastures new, certainly. So after the game against Collingwood, there was 82,000 in the MCG. He said after the game, not getting that in Ballarat, referring to the Bulldogs ground being under renovation at the time. Then the Bont, Marcus Bontempelli, said in response to that, there's probably a few less people in Ballarat for Bailey to flip the bird to. Obviously, the Bont usually keeps his cards pretty close to his chest, doesn't usually engage in fire across the media. Then Bailey Smith posted on Instagram after those comments a photo of himself playing for the Cats, and then he tagged the Salty Dog Cafe in Torquay with 3 fishing emojis. All pretty good grown-up stuff. So,
but great promotion for the game.
It's great promotion.
That's what you've got to understand about what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, both guys are probably just saying, "Oh, listen."
And the thing I'm looking forward to is when he gets out there and he's being marked, just for a bit of push and shove.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe some chills.
Camera zooming in as well.
Yeah, on player cam. Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, the thing about Bailey Smith, he's probably been the best. He's probably been Cat's best player this year. He's been outstanding for them. So, that's what we're looking forward to this weekend.
But will Dogs hard man Tom Liberatore try and take his ex-teammate's head off? He goes, because news.com.au are headlining. Yeah, well, figure of speech.
Christ.
There's been a twist in the AFL grudge match. Bulldogs warned against Bailey Smith's tactic. right? So, and the suggestion is that Bailey Smith will want that extra attention. Here goes.
Okay.
So, do the Bulldogs give him that attention and fuel him?
Oh, I see.
But that might make him play better.
Yep. Could be a
right? Do
mistake.
you do that? I mean, it'd be wonderful theatre.
So, on one hand, we got Reece Walsh punching his mate in the head.
Which is gold.
Which is gold.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we got, well, to be fair, a grudge match is good. It is good to watch. I mean, it's Thursday night footy, Pezza.
Oh, that wasn't the best story that I saw this week in footy. I mean, speaking of grudge matches or stakeholders coming together, this is from Code AFL. It's a picture of Brad Scott. He's just in his civvies. What was on the agenda and the menu when Andrew Dillon met with some AFL coaches at a pub in Fitzroy?
Okay.
Now that was the way one. That was the way one outlet reported it. Another went on and said the fish pie is a local's favourite at the Builders Arms in Fitzroy. But it was not the AFL's finance pie that was the hot topic when Andrew Dillon met with senior coaches on Monday night. The third one said, we checked the menu, fish pie not even on the online menu.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
To which Charlie said it might have been a special. And then there's
Don't fuck with Chuck.
There's pictures. These coaches are sitting with Andrew Dillon and Laura Kane. There's just 4 coaches. There's whole articles about how, look, Gillan McLaughlin used to like to host the coaches at his house, right? But Andrew Dillon prefers smaller meetings and smaller companies so we can have a little bit more of an intimate discussion.
Yes, okay.
And then you got these paparazzi photos through the Builders Arms in Fitzroy of Brad Scott drinking a red wine. You know, it's the drama is just off the chain for
me. Has he paired the fish pie with a red?
Well, that's interesting. Now, that is interesting. Did he have the fish pie? No. Brad Scott said he had the lamb shoulder and he described it as, quote, solid. Now,
can I say on the Builders Arms? So first of all, it's a great pub.
It's a great pub.
It's a great pub.
No disrespect for Builders Arms.
No disrespect. But every time I think about that pub, the first time I went there, I'd only recently moved. It was one of the first pubs I went to after Melbourne opened up after I moved here, and I went there for what year was the grand final? The Swans got absolutely fucking humped by Geelong. 2022.
Yeah, it was.
Some friends and I had we'd booked this table, and it was actually only recently started dating LJ, I think. And isn't that interesting? And the screen went out midway through the first quarter.
Hell yeah!
And then when it came back on, the Swans were down by 80. So now every time I think about Builders Arms, despite being a great pub.
I just got another one here, he goes, which I want to put to you and Charlie as well. This is from SEN Breakfast. It was encouraging me to listen because Channel 9 Chief Footy reporter Tom Morris was with Kane and Kingy this morning. What does he think of the AFL's fixture between round 16 to 23? That was it. Obviously, the AFL released the fixture round 16 to 23, so you can see, what time of the weekend or they were playing. Right, so
and the machinations within.
The machinations therein. So I just want to know if that's the sort of thing that's getting you hot.
I obviously have flicked across and circled some dates in the old calendar there, and as it turns out, I'll be in Dubai.
We will ask Tom Morris onto the show to come and answer some of these
big questions.
Well, bring some of them to us.
There'll be some hot button issues. Now, the big discussion right now is Brad Scott, will he survive? Because Jimmy Hurd's in.
Jimmy Hurd waiting in the wings.
You have to talk about AFL with cotton buds in your mouth, don't you? You sort of swish it around.
I don't know, actually. Like that, you have to say words with as much kind of you have to roll your tongue around the word as much as possible. Like you got to say footy club and the playing group. Dean Cox, massive on it. I just watching that on the weekend as well. Swans obviously
Swans
the Blues.
Swans are back.
Shout out Dylan. Swans are back. But yeah, I watched Sevens post match coverage, and then I watched. Then I watched Fox's. I went back and just compared the two and where I was when I was watching. And I watched Dean Cox's presser, and it's just there's a lot of we understand about playing group. And and you can't have a club; it's a football club.
Yeah.
And look at the football club.
Well, what I would say about Brad Scott is that when you've got a legend of the club knocking about saying, "Look, I haven't ruled out coming back."
Well, I mean, he's the prodigal son, or is Joe Watson the prodigal son? Let us know.
Of course, friend of ours.
Plains fans.
Now, how do you want to do this? You know, because we for our footballing chat, our soccer chat, you know, we have spoken to Max here. So, like, do you want to do it at the end?
Sorry, mate.
Sorry, you want to do more
no,
but do you want to throw to Max at the end, or do you want to save him for the rest of the show? Like, how do you want to play this out?
I see. Yeah.
Let's figure this out on there.
I know. I reckon it's such a lovely chat. I reckon we go through the sport.
Yeah,
and then we'll go to Max.
Okay. And then we'll finish up with boys, actually.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Nice.
Okay, that's how we're doing it.
Just quickly on just more reports at afl.com.au. I think it's Cal Toomey. Sorry if it's not Cal. I'm sorry, but just note just a picture of Harley Reid, and it says Geelong and Hawthorn are pursuing him. St Kilda is having a crack and is in the chase. Richmond is keen and has 2 top 5 picks. Essendon wants him as well, and Melbourne is in it too. To which Damon Jackman, pardon me, DJ, who we know, says may as well just name the remaining 4 Vic teams and cover all bases. Surely they'll be having a dip as well. So is everybody in Victoria's in for Harley Reid, apparently.
I feel left out.
Well, Swans are a bit short, so
there's definitely space for him.
He'll get it's the coming home effect, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Coming home effect. That's all. Oh no, Guy Sebastian's in hospital awaiting surgery after rupturing his Achilles. In an injury in a local footy game with Brendan Favola. Brendan Favola says, I spoke to him this morning. He's not well. So get well soon, Guy Sebastian.
That's a touching tribute, Bessa. Now let's talk about rugby.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about the Brumbies being top of the table at the moment, though that is interesting. Because of our recent love for all things Canberra and the Australian Capital Territory. Now, people might have seen the USA against the Wallaroos, and the thing that's happened there is Aliv Kelter, who plays for the USA, stomping on the head of the Wallaroos tackler Georgina Friedrichs.
Disgrace.
So she was looking at a double-digit game suspension. It was mooted. You're looking at your 10, your 12 game suspension. Anything attacking the head, especially with stomping, as we've seen in the men's format before. Guys have got 10, 12 games plus. So this happened overnight. So she went to the judiciary, Kelter, and she accepted the red card was correct in her evidence. The committee, however, accepted Kelter's evidence that she did not intend to contact the head, and her act was reckless rather than deliberate. She got 3 games.
Did you see this footage?
People have already seen the footage. It's a fucking disgrace. It's one of the worst things I've seen on the rugby field. It's fucked up.
She must have fucking Tourette's of the leg or something. like the way that leg was just unnaturally trying to work its way through.
Yeah. Just trying to plant on the old face there.
Yeah.
I mean, if that connects like flush, you're looking at I'd imagine you're looking like rehabilitative surgery to the face.
Yeah.
It was cooked.
Yeah, no, there are some moments in like rugby's league and union. Sometimes you see it in Aussie rules where the conduct is so dangerous and like malicious that you start to go like, I think this is a court case. Like I think this is assault.
Yeah.
And I felt that fell into that category.
Yeah.
Like watching it. So it went beyond the like, gee, it's good to see a bit of that back in the game in Rugby Union. It's just like, no, like she's going to have reconstructive surgery on her face.
Yeah.
But she didn't realise she was there. She just started fucking stomping.
Yeah.
It's just something that happens when you're...
Well, it was reckless.
It's just reckless.
It was just reckless.
Yeah, 3 games will do it.
As I understand it through commenters on the internet, that Kelter's got some form before on this sort of stuff. There's been a red mist about it.
Okay.
I think she's formerly an ice hockey player. I think there's one other sport she excelled at as well. Now into rugby, and so, which I suppose can happen in at this level of the game. But yeah. So when you look at the footage and you think, 3 games for that, you're thinking, what the fuck is going on? Anyway, it's in the news. So.
I just got a rugby thing as well. Waratahs are hopeless, so no one knows what's happened. They lost to Crusaders over the weekend at home, and there's barely anyone there. And there are fears for the Lions match. There are fears about the Waratahs' ability to put up a game against the British and Irish Lions. The Tars obviously a bellwether for the health of Australian rugby. You know, Are we concerned?
Yeah,
probably.
Yep.
There's a couple of leagueies playing in the Lions game, aren't they? So. Should be all right.
That must be like in a week. It's a day today.
I've heard rumours Nathan Clear is coming over.
Fuck yeah.
Just leave that there.
Let's talk about basketball. What about some of the wild scenes, Pezza? So the Knicks are into the Eastern Conference Finals after beating the Celtics in Game 6. Did you see? So outside Madison Square Garden, there was just the floods of people onto the streets. There was a guy like on top of a electric billboard, and he's filmed himself as well. You actually find that footage online. It's I don't know how the fuck he got up there. It's it's chaos. It's side talk.
Yeah.
Obviously, New Yorkers hate Bostonites. Is that the right word? Definitely not. Boys, actually, damn it, sorry. But the energy in those streets, oh my God. I'm sure people have friends in New York who perhaps are even out there. We do.
Steve Smith was there.
It's fucking chaos. It looked like so much fun.
Imagine seeing Smudge on Side Talk. Yeah, we're talking. Bang bong. Nixon Stooks, baby. That'd be hot.
So that was good. And the Final Four is no one could have predicted the Final Four. So
no,
we're moving into it must be Charlie. Have you got a date? Do you have a date by any chance of when the conference finals are starting? I don't even know what the date is today. The
21.
21 is it?
Yeah,
21. You got a date for me, Chuck?
Yeah, tomorrow.
It's tomorrow. Okay.
Cool.
Well, there you go. Well, by the time most people listen to this, things have already happened. Hey, what about the WNBA Open at Pezza? Caitlin Clark against Angel Reese. Tickets apparently were more expensive for that game than Indiana's in the men's in the NBA. Were more expensive than their Game 7 game.
Okay.
So Caitlin Clark obviously plays for the Indiana Fever, obviously. Angel Reese, Chicago Fire, I want to say. Nah, damn it. More mistakes.
I admire your efforts.
Something.
You go there.
Something.
Yeah.
Chicago Sky.
It's fucking. Yeah. He's actually saved you a few emails.
I think Chicago Fire's I think they have a Major League Soccer team.
Oh, okay, so
why do I keep going? Why do I keep going?
Please don't. Please. I think you're right.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I got something.
We've already made 15 mistakes in this show.
That's
the way it goes. Anyway, that game is, they're two of the biggest superstars in the WNBA. I'm not sure if you saw any highlights, but fuck, Caitlin Clark is a freak.
Caitlin Clark can play.
She can play.
Okay.
Andrew Bogut, Australia's very own, introduced into the FIBA Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
So the 40-year-old, he played 2 World Cups for Australia. And, of course, people might remember that he slammed the sport's global governing body after Australia's loss to Spain in the 2019 semi-final. So at the time, Bogut was reported as saying, "We all know where FIBA's headquartered is. It's a fucking disgrace. Cheating-ass motherfuckers. Google where headquarters of fucking FIBA is. Fucking disgrace."
Hell yeah.
Obviously suggesting that...
He's got a few views, Andrew.
He's got a couple of views.
He's got a couple of views on various things.
Well, now he's got those views from the Hall of Fame. So he was suggesting that, of course, that Spain and FIBA had, come together as a conspiracy to go against our Aussie boomers in that World Cup. And then in the acceptance speech, he said, "I now realise that FIBA's HQ is actually in Switzerland and not Spain." But give me some credit, though. They both start with an S. So, a touching moment there. But well done, Andrew Bogut.
A couple of basketball ones from me. He goes, Emmanuel Acho, who is a former NFL player, as you know, turned sports presenter, as just on Twitter, talking about Celtics Knicks. He says the Celtics match up better against the Knicks without Jason Tatum than they do with him. Give me 2 minutes to show you something you may have missed, and I'll convince you exactly why. Followed by a colon, right? And then you get introduced to a 1 minute 56 video of Emmanuel Acho explaining that. No doubt I've said his name correctly. To which there's a reply from an account called Kevin Durant with a blue tick. Hot take artists have ruined the sport. Football guys, no disrespect, but your boys need to stay in your lanes. You don't know what it's like between these lines, man. Give it a break. Dudes who quit football early to pursue media talk and mental toughness, cut it out.
Durant he's very outspoken on Twitter.
I love it.
He's very outspoken.
I'm fucking all in on KD. Just imagine being that guy, just like one of the greatest NBA players of all time, just fucking dunking on you hard.
Yeah,
I'm sure especially have a nice one day.
It's got nothing to do. It's got nothing to do with Durant either. Like, he doesn't play for the Celtics or the Knicks.
At the risk of unnecessary equivalence, I recall before the final day of Australia-Pakistan Test match in. And please stay on this. Don't go away. But
next,
like day 5, I think Cummins had made like a bold declaration to try and get the 10 wickets to win on an absolute road, and I tweeted something like that, like something about when Cummins should declare, and I got a reply from Mark Waugh basically saying like fucking side mouthing the fuck out of me.
Okay.
You know, like I can't remember what it said.
Yeah.
But
so he's come across that tweet.
I don't know how. I don't know how. Yeah. I tagged him in it. Yeah. Well, you know, have a look at the result. June. Just another one from basketball. Sorry, NBA superstar Russell Westbrook 2 weeks ago launched a new startup that aims to streamline funeral planning using AI. So good luck to Russell.
Scottie Scheffler won the PGA Pezzo. That's his third major. The main takeaway from the tournament is that the PGA Championship is very much the worst, inverted commas, major. It's very much fourth on the list of the 4 majors. And that if you're playing like places like Quail Hollow, which is where it was in Charlotte, just much less interesting. The course wasn't in great condition. There was a lot of a couple of mud balls. There was divots in play deluxe.
Nice.
In the middle of the fairway, of course. So it doesn't have the same quality as the prestigious tournaments of your Opens, your US Opens, your Masters, of course.
Yeah. So a Mickey Mouse major.
It's a Mickey Mouse major.
That's what we're saying.
And even people suggesting like the Players, which has been considered the fifth, major, is much more prestigious than indeed the PGA Championship. But, nice. Scottie Scheffler, well done. There's also a thing with Scheffler specifically, who is by a distance the number 1 player in the world at the moment, has been for the last probably 2 years at least, that it's boring,
Yeah, I mean, the whole chat is boring as all hell. So shit course, Mickey Mouse major, Scottie Scheffler, a bit boring of a player. It's great. It's just a great achievement from a guy who would just fucking rip it. Rip it down.
He's at the top of his game. People are comparing him to Tiger-like seasons, Tiger-like years, what he's achieved. Certainly last year, a great season. But it's like the swing's a bit, like the footwork's a bit yuck. It's not quite as pure. It's not as exciting. So Tiger had these outrageous shots because he found himself in difficult positions at times. Phil Mickelson was the same. So, but Scheffler's like, he's so tee to green, one part, it's just to be like,
he's not doing the right kind. He's not the right kind of golfer.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. There's fewer shots, but they don't like the way he goes about it.
And he's a God guy as well. So he hasn't got the off field. He's just a wonderful father. Great family, etc.
Yep.
So he hasn't got that sort of intrigue off the course as well. It's all just. I mean, he did get arrested last year.
That's good.
Before
that's
the PGA
good for the brand.
Yeah.
Well, I noted the alligator that starred in Happy Gilmore died of old age in Colorado.
Yes.
Speaking of golf,
yes.
His name was Morris. And he died. He worked in many movies and TV shows over a 31-year career from 1975 to 2006, and he was estimated to have lived over 80 years. So he bit Chubb's hand off. Damn alligator bit my hand off.
I got his head.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So Varley Morris. Speaking of
Happy Gilmore 2 is coming out soon. I think it's in June. It's in June.
It's
Chuck, have you got a date for me?
It's in late July. I know. I've looked this up.
Boy,
look, we're going to be in the UK, so the UK release, UK release is late July.
It's just Netflix though, isn't it? So
I don't think so.
It is
just Netflix.
25th of July in Australia.
Yeah. Okay, so that must be global release. That the footy club.
A little bit of humour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Morris, yep.
Hey, have you caught this, Pezza? This one's has been some controversy the last couple of days. So William Goodge has broken the record for the fastest time to run across Australia. He's a 31-year-old Brit who ran from Cottesloe to Bondi, which is 3,800 kilometres, and he broke the previous record by 4 days. So he ran consistently 110 kilometres a day, as I understand
I went to school with a guy who previously held that record, by the way.
Really?
Yep. Chris Turnbull.
Okay.
They look fit at school. He was chiseled.
What was he running away from?
No, we would fucking drive by. It's not drive by Chris Turnbull. He was a year above us at school.
Okay.
And he's a good looking man. He was he actually likes Turnbull, like nominative determinism. He was kind of shaped like a bull. He was squat, but he was fucking strong.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of power. And you'll never have heard this before, but I still remember like at swimming carnivals, he looked like a washing machine, like going through the water. Like he just got a lot of white water going. But hell of a lot of power, very fit, and he's run across Australia.
Was he a nice guy?
Lovely guy.
One of the best?
Yeah. No, never. Like he was always excellent.
Okay.
Yep.
So he previously held this record.
Yeah,
I've been talking a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, but people are questioning this guy, William Goodge, who himself is a former model and in Great Nick.
If that wasn't enough.
If that wasn't enough.
I'll run across Australia.
Yeah.
Nah,
Nah,
he's done this for good purposes, right?
Yeah. So people are questioning this because running over these distances is almost entirely about self-reporting, okay? So people take a GPS watch and run a particular distance and then submit their data for ratification to either the Guinness World Records or FKT, which is fastest known time. So basically people are saying that his heart rate is too low to be running that amount of distance over that amount of time. So in his, I think it's like a Garmin, I think he was reporting on, just like a wristwatch wearable device.
Right.
He was often in like zone 1 and zone 2, which as I understand, that can happen. So his run from April 16, day 2 of his challenge, has been flagged on Strava after users noted that he set a personal record of 23 seconds for 400 meters. That's 20 seconds faster than Wade van Niekerk's world record on the track, and is a speed of about 62 kilometers an hour. With his pace analysis recording that for 42 seconds, he ran faster than 3 minutes, 33 seconds per kilometer. So Canadian Running Magazine has also observed his in-reach data, recording movement at speeds exceeding 80 kilometers an hour. So I think like when Usain Bolt was winning his 100 meters, I think they peak at about 38 kilometers an hour. I think that's right.
Yeah, I mean, this next line you've got here is surely
it's just the answer.
situation.
Yeah. So these blips in data can be easily explained away by transmission errors in what is a very remote part of the country, but it certainly adds fuel to the doubters. So other like ultra marathon, ultra long distance runners have like been very vocal in their criticism and skepticism about the.
But I mean, if you see him, presumably somebody saw him when he started, and then you see him at the end.
Yeah, but he could have hopped on a car.
Well, so that's like, then you'd have to get into some serious hacking of your data, right? Like you have to be able to really manage the appearance of running while you're in a car.
Yeah.
Like that's starting to get a bit how you're going.
So people are also suggesting that he could have a team of runners. So like you just change your watch over, then someone runs really fast.
So that's a major conspiracy. If you're involving like half a dozen people,
it's a coup d'etat.
Whatever. It's a coup d'etat of Ned Brockman.
Justice for Ned is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And Chris. And Chris.
And CT.
Fuck me, dude.
I just like the idea that these guys run across Australia and be like, I don't know about that.
I mean, like, I understand that, you got to have integrity for these things. Otherwise, it becomes a joke. And anytime anyone else wants to do something of like an incredible feat, it then comes with a tag of being dubious because others have been dubious about it before.
Right.
But then by the other, But like on the other hand, I just think like, fuck, it's a long way to run. Like it's very good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I suppose it depends like what if he's got like, Lance Armstrong style significant financial gain, then people might be a bit like, come on, mate.
Well, you do, right? I mean, you can launch brands off the back of it.
I suppose you can. Don't you feel like in recent times, like the ultra long distance running has become like there's Hardest Geezer who ran the length of Africa, I think it was. Like Ned Brockman, obviously in Australia, doing
skis. I've never heard of that.
Oh, you haven't heard of that guy?
No,
Chuck, you've heard of that guy, have you?
Yeah.
Redhead guy.
Oh, total respect.
Yeah.
I'm encountering the name for the first time, and I like it.
Okay, yeah.
Laugh.
I don't know what his actual name is. It's just that's his handle. Hardest Geezer.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah.
I'm serious. It's funny.
Anyway, speaking of people doing cool things, Kenton Cool. A British man from southwest England scaled Mount Everest for the 19th time. That's the most by a non-Sherpa. So it's just not the most. But anyway, it's pretty cool. He first did it in 2004.
Yeah, how good are Sherpas that don't even like warrant classification in like for humans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So he first did it in 2004. He's attempted it every year since, I believe, though it hasn't been possible for 3 years due to there was an avalanche, earthquakes, COVID obviously in 2020. So 30 is the record by a Sherpa called Kami Rita. He's also currently on the mountain, expected to make the climb again in the coming days. So
you
make it
expect
31.
he's on the mountain, yeah.
So it's just like, well, the Sherpa's like, Sherpas don't count. Why?
What about the Sherpa community having a look at this? Just going like, all right, everyone get in the mountain now.
Yeah, 19, that's cute.
The entire industry falls over.
Yeah.
This is where we run into boys actually trouble when we do these peripheral sports. Because like we'll have some like non-thoughtful observation about it, and people who are like connoisseurs of it are just fucking at the ready.
Yeah. Shut the fuck up.
with that in mind, I just wanted to read a headline I got from Paralympics News. Blind Paralympic gold medal winner banned for life after being found to be able to see.
Yes.
Shahana Hajiyeya, who is a member of the Azerbaijani Paralympic team, has been banned for life from a category after failing a medical classification test. So you think, okay, well, there might be a nuance within this. 25-year-old judoka triumphed in the 48 kg event in Japan and also secured gold in the 48 kg J2 category.
Yeah, the J2.
In the 23 European Para Championships. Didn't participate in the 24 Paris Games. She was scheduled to compete in Astana, Kazakhstan for the championships. However, as per Pro Sport AZ, shout out, she was found to have failed a medical classification test for partially sighted judokas ahead of the Kazakhstan competition. The test concluded that she did not possess any vision restrictions that would hinder her participation in the competitions for the visually impaired. So, are we saying she has full vision?
I think what happened is, I don't know if you've seen the Mamba mentality, when Kobe Bryant's standing in for the inbound pass and the opposition player goes throw the ball in Kobe's face and he doesn't move. Yeah, she flinched.
Yeah, you do wonder what. Yeah, boys, actually, what is the test for the sight test for someone who's claiming not to see?
Or she just went to a driving test and just did the A, two all the numbers, the letters and stuff. Put one hand over your eye.
Hang on, you're there.
She was good to go. I mean, you got a gold medal. Why are you wearing it?
I wonder what sacrifices she's had to make in the event that she has full vision in order to compete as a successful judoka, for whom turns out judo is really easy if you can see. But
feels like you'd be one step ahead.
Is she not driving?
How committed has she been to the bit?
Yeah, exactly.
No impairment. That's quite.
Yeah. All right.
Should we get Max Rushton onto the show? Here he is. Here's Max Rushton.
Finally, we made it. I want to start here. In 2018, I saw this man walking through Camden Fields, London, and such was my audio familiarity with him, especially living over there and consuming bulk football content at the time. I was legitimately too shy to go and say hello.
Good, because I hate it when people do that.
So
never approach me, because I'll just tell you to fuck off.
Thanks.
No, actually,
it's
a lie. You should have said hi, Sam.
So, just by way of introduction to everybody else,
to everybody else, you should say.
to the one person listening. Yeah. We have with us a man that's provided the voice and face of football narration for hordes of people in the UK and beyond. You might know him from iconic programs like Soccer AM, Guardian Football Weekly, BBC Radio 5 Live, Talk Sport, Stan's coverage of the football over here until recently. Let's discuss the project, the What Did You Do Yesterday pod, or Melbourne University Football Club. In the same way serious footballers leave Australia for Europe, media performers like this man had to leave the UK for the bright lights of Melbourne. Welcome to the circus, father of two and centrist dad, Max Rushton.
Thanks so much. It is true. If you want to make it in football, like soccer, you have to be in Australia. Don't you? You really do.
Yeah. So it's what they say, right?
That's what they say. If you're in the middle of London, and the trouble, if it's on your doorstep, sometimes you're too close.
It's too close to it. It's a journalistic thing.
The games are on at a reasonable time.
Yeah.
There are so many people you can talk to. What you need to do is get a bit of distance, and that's what I've done. It's really, it's helped me flourish.
It's an interesting conversation actually generally about because tourist fans in big stadiums, particularly the big let's say top 6 now or whatever it is, they get frustrated when tourists come in. But then, those tourists will say well, we watch the games at 2 a.m. So, we have some pride about what time we have to get up. Now, we just watch highlights. Let's be honest. It's 9:30 in the morning for 3-minute clips. But
3 minute 30.
Yeah.
They sometimes miss the goal, don't they?
3, 9, 20, 45.
Yeah, sometimes you go the 9, the 25. Some of the 25 you go,
if your team's going well, 9.
Have you missed the goal in that?
But don't you think
it's an important part of it?
but when you're in it, when you're when it's at your doorstep, you probably don't understand why people do get up at 2, 3 in the morning to watch their football side play.
Do you know what? You really take it all for granted,
right?
And
so you should,
and you get if you are a football fan in the UK, you get all the shiny things. You get the show before the show before the show.
Yes.
You get the show after the show, the phone in after that. You get everything, the best coverage. And so when you come here, what's really interesting is, one, I definitely totally changed my opinion on tourist fans, because you're right. If you're a Middlesbrough fan and you're watching the EFL at 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning, that is real commitment, like genuine commitment. Like there is a real debate about tourist fans and how many, because obviously if you get a tourist fan in, they'll buy a shirt, they'll buy this.
Yeah.
So like owners almost prefer them to season ticket holders, and people have been there for years and years and years. But to just sort of dismiss anybody who isn't from within 5 miles of the stadium as a sort of glory hunter idiot who is ruining the atmosphere of this because they don't know every word of every song is ridiculous. Trying to find out, what do you do? Do you just have like a certain, we say, look, we've got a 60,000 seat stadium, season tickets, 40,000 season tickets, 15,000 members and 5,000 just open. And because if you do, like, there are stories of like people who flew from here for like the last Merseyside derby at Goodison, and then it was Walid Ali from the project. He went, and then it was rained off. That's bad enough if you live there and it's rained off. You're like, oh, my plans have changed. Yeah. You've flown from Melbourne. Yeah. Like that's quite a commitment that you made. So I have definitely totally changed my view on tourist fans.
At the same time, I'm a Liverpool fan, obviously because of my connections to Melwood. But like, shut up, Charlie. There was like
the famous French's Forest Melwood connections.
Your dad is from Bootle. I remember it now.
But like the Premier League put up all these photos of fans celebrating when they won the league and at Anfield against Spurs. And one of the photos was like a family photo, and like the caption was "Our first trip to Anfield," and it was like, how the fuck did you get tickets to that game? That's too far for me. That's too far.
It's really hard. It's hard to, because also if you're a tourist fan, right? Yeah. If you're a tourist fan, you want to be the only tourist there. Yeah. Right? Because you want to be surrounded by the real people.
That's right. So you're like, you want the local experience.
This is my tourist experience. I don't want to be sat next to another tourist. Yeah. And then all the people in the UK who hate tourist fans have all been to see a Yankees game. Yeah. Right? Oh, I've got tickets for the Classico, but that's different. Because then I'm a tourist. It's totally different.
Yeah.
Tourist fans can be cringe though. Like we talk about, we'll have our mates in a football thread or something, and like a couple of Arsenal fans will be like repeating lines from that locals say at games and stuff. It's like, good. You're not from Finsbury Park. Yeah, like don't, you know what I mean? But they want to cosplay that experience as well. So
Can we go back to when you saw me,
please? Yeah.
What was your
speaking of tourist fans?
Did you just stare adoringly?
I can still see it actually. So I was with my wife Tori, and we would have had our boy Ted would have been in a pram, like a couple of months old. We might have had Floramos.
E5 Bakehouse, London Fields, isn't it? E5 Bakehouse.
That was pushing me. I can just remember I saw you from like a 45-degree angle behind you, walking angle, away. And that was my first thought. Yeah, and but like I'd lived in London for coming up to 2 years, and like your pod, a couple of others were like part of the portfolio of the the football experience. Yeah. So it was like I was in the parasocial relationship where I felt like I knew, and so I was like I point out to Tori, who gives less than neutral, like has less than neutral care about sport, including my own job and all the sports we care about. I was like, oh, that's Max Rushton from Guardian Football Weekly, and she's like, but we were doing like a lot of cricket stuff at the time or whatever, so it wasn't unusual to know some people who were in the public eye. And she's like, go up and say hello. And I'm like, no, like I was actually like, I wasn't saying I was cowering behind her, but she was definitely like, yeah, that's right. You couldn't see me at all, but I was hiding behind her like a tree. But she was like, I think there was like a furrowed brow of like, what, like, why is this a thing? You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's what happens when you like you immerse yourself in a podcast and you feel like you know the person who's hosting. So
it's funny. It's funny if occasionally someone will come up and say, "Oh, I remember like when Jay, my wife, moved over to London, and then we'd sort of be out somewhere and someone would stop and say, "Oh, I like the pod. You got thanks so much." And Jamie would be like, "Who was that? Why didn't you introduce me?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know who it was." Like, I will. And now I really make a point. Obviously, a bit like you. Yeah. Jamie like hates sport.
Yeah.
Like absolutely hates sport. Yeah. Has never consumed until this new podcast that I do with David O'Doherty, What Did You Do Yesterday one. She's never listened to anything. And now she listens to this, and it took me a while because that's really talking about your personal life, right?
Yeah.
And then now I'm like, am I talking to her or am I actually talking to the audience? Because whenever I've mentioned her about anything, well, I know she's not tuning into TalkSport, that's for sure. She's just like, all she hears, because we still do the podcast, obviously we're on Zoom.
Yes.
And so now I've got a little shed in the back garden. But when I was just in like one of the rooms, I'd have headphones in so she could only hear my bit of the podcast. And I'd be laughing away. And I'd walk out and she'd just go, nothing can be that funny. She's probably right.
The first time I ever heard of you, you were in a pub in Northcote 3 years ago. No, the first time I
was playing the social club. Just a few acoustic hits.
The first time I ever came across you, I was in 2009 and I just moved to the UK and you were on Soccer AM. And I was 22 when I first moved there, and
peak Soccer AM.
It was like I'd never seen anything like it. It was chaotic, it was ridiculous, it was absurd, it was hilarious, it was so fast moving. It was kind of like when I say clumsy, like in the best kind of way, it was unscripted, I suppose. You know,
it was clumsy.
But that show, like, I understand now, like it wouldn't exist because of the internet, right? But
totally.
But like that show must have actually changed your life
completely. And I was so. It was for people who don't know, it was like Saturday morning, light entertainment, a clip show, basically.
Right.
So you're right. So everything was just like, this funny thing happened in League Two, in the Championship. So you're right. Now with social media, everyone would have. So this is the first time people had seen the clips.
Yes.
But then within that, you would have like a chat show. So you'd have a footballer, a comedian or an actor, and a band on. So like some weeks you would have, Peter Schmeichel, The Rock, and Noel Gallagher, right? And then some weeks you would have just like 3 people that no one ever knew, right? And the show would basically be the same.
Yeah.
And then there would be sketches, and then we'd do like advert pastiche and stuff. It was like so much fun. There were parts of it that have not aged well, right?
Right.
They were very of its time.
Yeah.
And interestingly, when I first got it, my 2 predecessors were real kind of alpha lads.
Okay.
And I was like a massive square, clarinetist, like with a history degree. Not that I talked about that a lot, but like I didn't fit. And I tried to sort of, because it was such a big show and I'd like been on it as a fan of the week years before, I tried to sort of be laddie when it was a total disaster, as you can tell, right? And so then I eventually was like, this is, you've got to be yourself, otherwise you screw it. And, but yeah, to get that gig, having never done TV in my life, and I was doing the breakfast show on BBC London Radio, which was pretty good. Like, I was pleased with that. And I lost that job because I wasn't famous. And I found out they sent an email round with like this is when your publicity shots are. And I was not on the email. And a presenter who didn't work at the station was on the email. I was like, there's a problem. And I made this
famously
show
good at feedback media, aren't they? You always find things out the hard way.
I sent this show off to everybody, like BBC One, ITV, Channel 4, blah, blah, blah. And nobody replied except the Travel Channel, who said, look, you're just not really edgy enough. You're just a bit boring. And I was like, that's quite brutal. Especially the Travel Channel it wasn't like Travel Man with Richard Iwadi. This was just like 2 weeks in Marbella will cost $300. Like, it was the most boring channel in the world.
Right, yeah.
And then Sky Sports said, look, come and have a chat. And then they said, here's a 2-year contract. Like,
That's
it was
awesome.
like, it was totally ridiculous. And it was terrifying.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. When like 08, 09 I started, for 2 years many people thought I was terrible for the whole duration, but I knew I was terrible for like 2 years, definitely, because it was like too big for me, I guess. I was I was just shitting myself all the time.
Yeah.
And you don't expect presenters to be nervous, right? It's like performers as well. You don't expect them to.
Yes.
And I think if social media had really existed when I started, I'd have been totally screwed.
Do you think so? Or do you think others would say, that you actually looked really good? I mean, there can be a difference between how you feel versus how people perceive you.
Yeah, but I don't know about you, like now when I get insults, I don't care. I think it's funny because I sort of think there are enough people that think this is good and enough people have said, and I've done it for so long now. But like then when I was really raw, especially in television, I'd have just been like, oh my God, everyone thinks I'm a twat. And maybe I am. And I think that would have really affected me. Whereas now it's just great when you're starting a radio show and someone texts in going, this is the only 2 hours of TalkSport I don't listen to.
Yeah.
And you can get good content. You can be like, sorry, Dave. But actually, if you are listening 24 hours a day, every day, it's probably good to have 2 hours off. Like this actually would probably do you a favour. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was amazing. Amazing experience. And like all these things, I was pretty unlucky to lose that gig when I lost it, but I did it for 7 years and I was so lucky to get it. And when you have a bit of perspective and you go, that did completely change my life.
Yeah.
And everything that I've got since has come from that.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, how lucky to spend 7 years just going. Your job is, John Lewis, like, it was a big department store.
Yeah.
And they would always do a big Christmas advert. And we would always rip it off shot for shot with some gag at the end. And so we'd be waiting for the John Lewis advert to drop to be like, I'm going to spend 18 hours tomorrow dressed as a penguin. And then like halfway through that shoot, you'd be like, you know, and then like some random footballer, you know, like Dion Dublin would appear in the advert because we'd book someone to be in it. It'd be like, this is actually like, this is my, like, people have jobs.
Yeah.
Like, you must think that. Like, people have jobs.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
like, occasionally you do get ground down about, not another football match to watch.
Yeah.
And you do occasionally have to go, this is absolutely silly.
Yeah.
This is paying for my mortgage.
It was so culturally significant, that show, which is, as you say, like some of the parts don't age well, but I mean, I don't even know metrics, but how many people watch that per week?
Yeah, not many. Like, because it was on Sky.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, it was probably at its peak, like, 750,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, so when
But
you...
is that not very much for television?
Sky, it's pretty good.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
for like non-live football on Sky, it was great. But when you started thinking, you know, this is a big show, because when you're in your bubble, and that was a relentless show for producers and everything, they were working so hard for like 41 weeks of a live TV show. And, you know, it was a 3-hour show, you know. By the time I finished, it was 2. I managed to, you know, they were like, God, this is too long for, you know, we want to cut this guy's hours. But there were... you know, a good 65.5 million people not watching it every week. Week in, week out.
Yeah, who wasn't watching? Who wasn't watching?
Do you feel like, you know, you've presented some type of narration of football, like using comedy and intelligence and stuff like that, you know, for what, like 20 years? Or something like that? When you look back on Soccer AM versus, you know, the state of online commentary on football analysis or narration today, does it feel like the good years? Because like I love how you do. I love how you engage online, especially a few years ago. I remember on Twitter when you wrote like something like nailed on pen, and then the next tweet was like, no way, that's
Never
a pen. Never a pen.
Yeah. And then I'd let them do their journey.
And then you let them go off,
journeys,
you know, like,
and actually, you probably wouldn't do that now just because can't be bothered.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but like when Twitter was slightly different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Less of a cesspool.
I think that's a really interesting question, because there's always a danger that you're stuck in your time, right?
Yes.
So like, I'm definitely a middle-aged man, right? I'm 46, which is so weird to think.
Yeah.
But obviously you get nostalgic as you have, you know, a permanent midlife crisis from about 40 onwards, I would say. So I don't know if there was a beauty in a sort of the fact that everyone had to come to our show to watch those clips.
Yeah.
If something happened in League Two, that was where, so there was a kind of, it's a bit like, you know, when TV shows were on a certain time of day. And so like, if you went to school the next day, if you didn't see Neighbours or Out the day before, you'd be like, oh, you might be out of the conversation or whatever. There is a sort of community in that is lovely, that obviously doesn't exist now, because if something funny's happening in a League Two game, it's all over the internet before that game's even finished.
Yeah.
So like, there's obviously football content made now that I look at going, this is ridiculous. But like, there's a place for it, you know, and it's probably, you know, it's good in ways and bad in ways, but probably like a proliferation means there isn't like everyone hanging on like 5 journalists who follow the England football team, you know, and what they say actually has an impact. It's like, okay, there's a broader spectrum, it's more diverse and all those things that I think are probably good. And I suppose now you're just like, okay, so when I think about, say, Football Weekly, it's like, you know, I think we're good, but like, we can't just be the same, you know, like it's hard to go, do you just do the same panel because it's good?
Yeah.
How do you bring new people in?
Yeah.
Do you just go, well, look, all our references are from the 90s? You know, quite a lot of it's going, God, this guy made his debut and he was born when like Beyonce was #1 and we all like have a crisis.
Yeah.
But obviously if you're young, well, then you're like, well, this is meaningless. Why would I listen to that? So what do you do? Do you try and
do you cater
stay
to that
in your lane,
niche?
or do you like, what do you do? It's quite
we talk about that all the time, you know, because I think fans are like, please stay in the lane, because I love this lane and all the other lanes like Goldbridge are not for me. You know what I mean? But good on them, people who like that. Or do you go like, oh gee, everyone's sort of watching Mark Goldbridge now. Like, do we have to become meme lords, or like do we have to?
I mean, I really hate. I do hate clickbait, you know, radio and just saying. I think, you know, I think Ruben Amorim not only should be sacked, but should be put in prison for 20 years. And then someone else says, I think he's the best thing ever. Phone us now. I just can't bear it.
Exactly.
To the
Reaction
point where,
to the reaction.
To the point where I think, and we're lucky, like a lot of talk sport, you have phone-ins about who's the bigger club, Liverpool, Man United. I couldn't do it. It would just kill me. But like...
who is that?
That's interesting.
If you look at
the league titles are the same. But
God. I remember, but it was April the 1st, and me and Charlie Baker were on TalkSport, and we were saying, we started the show going, look, we've signed another 2 years, but the bosses have asked us to just do a bit more football. Hope you don't mind. Is the Manchester derby today? So we're doing the phone in. What's the bigger club, Man United or Man City? Right. So to do 10 minutes of this, and Charlie did Man United. So I legitimately had to try and say Man City are a bigger club than Man United, which is obviously not true. It's absurd. And but I had to, as I was doing it, even though I knew I only had to do it for like 3 minutes, and like out of the break we could say it's an April Fool. I was like dying inside. Even doing it as a pastiche was like, fuck, this is killing me. This is like, because you have to go, what if you think about, but like there is a place for it, right? People like all that stuff, but there's, there is, I don't know, I sort of think it must be really tiring to do that. Like to be so upset. It's like, I sort of wonder, it's a bit like, there are lots of broadcasters who aren't quite good enough, so they go quite right wing and make a massive living, right? Or sort of YouTube grifters in political, in serious world.
Looking online that there's just the algorithm rewards that type of provocation. So you mightn't even deliberately decide it. You just understand that if I'm knocking around in this area of conversation, my numbers are rising.
Exactly.
So I will continue.
And there's a funny thing. I read this book. I think it's called The Chaos Machine, about social media. And because in sport it's kind of fine. You become a clickbait guy in sport. What's the worst that happens? But in real life, like you become like some YouTube sensation that basically ends democracy, right? So, but it's the same principle, I think, where you go, I'm not really getting enough. It's harder to be like entertaining and nice. I think.
Yes.
But there is a genuine thing, I think, in social media that if you, not even in broadcasting, if you just post on Facebook something inflammatory, you get more responses, and that dopamine hit means that you actually start to believe the stuff, right? So the world is,
because it becomes a livelihood.
That too, right? So I'm sort of really pleased that right now I'm in a position where I don't have to do that.
Yes.
And if you ever see it, you know that things have got bad when I'm just online going, and Pastor Coglu should be strung up and whipped. Right. Because I don't believe that. Or like this, everything's a disgrace. Everything's an embarrassment. It's not like, well, there were two teams playing and both of them are trying to win. Like that is actually like the opposition also exists and they're trying to stop you. It's like quite hard, this game. Like whatever sport it is, just don't get so angry. It's
I'm
all
not sure if
okay.
you've seen Ange's press conference from this morning. This morning overnight, where a journalist said he's either going to be a hero or a clown. Like that's so ridiculous. Like I know it's been a difficult season in the league,
and actually that is a bit of that comes back to sort of the football tourist thing, in the way that if you're in the UK, you do basically look at football in other countries and go,
of course.
So like, of course, whatever Andrew's success is in Australia or Japan, you just go.
He says mate a lot. He says mate in his press conference. The sort of anti-Australian.
And they have been really bad. I presume this is not going out before the Europa League final. Probably, we don't know. Like, he probably won't be at Tottenham, and I'm really sad about it. I would love them to win.
This is going to go out today, by the way.
Oh, great.
So,
it's live. Okay, text us now. He's got to be sacked. Sack him now immediately.
Down the barrel.
3664. Like, I really hope, because there is a real hubris, right? And actually, there's a real hubris about anybody with an Australian or American accent trying to talk about football.
Absolutely.
You're going, no, you don't know. Whereas interestingly and paradoxically, if when I came here and I talk about football, people go, oh, well, he must know. I could be spouting absolute shite, but because it's in an English accent, you're instantly like afforded like a grace of like, well, he must know.
Well, what has your assessment of Australian football generally been, having moved here? And I ask that because there's no way Aussies would ever publicly want to defer to the view of an Englishman.
No, I understand.
But deep down,
except on AFL and NRL, people come to me a lot for how the Pies are doing this season.
But deep down, it is a bit like, how are we doing, Daddy?
That's right.
What are you?
In
so
what
you
sense?
sound like you sound like you're like, you've come over here and you're like, oh, I get the Ange thing, and people better need to they need to better understand it.
What I really got from Stan was, and I got a lot of guys from Football Weekly in. We tried to change sort of how we tried to cover it in a sort of intelligent, not clickbaity way, and what I really got, certainly in the first couple of years, was a real appreciation from football fans, right, who are starved of content because there just isn't a lot of it. There
in
isn't,
Australia.
In Australia, what do you get? You get the games, but you don't get the show before the show. If you're an AFL fan, NRL show, cool, you get all of that stuff, right?
There's
cricket,
more show
right?
than game.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same. So you're so spoiled.
Yeah.
So when you actually deliver something that people really liked, you really did send, from like sort of, I don't know, big AC Milan fan groups in Sydney or whatever going, actually, I like how you're analysing that game. I like how you're doing this. So that was really interesting that actually, because football fans feel constantly like the poor relation, right?
Well, they're maligned here, really.
Yeah,
and their stereotypes,
totally,
because these big codes are afraid of it.
Yeah, yeah, and that is really interesting. And I'd never ever seen that. And I suppose I wonder if rugby league in the UK feels like that a bit. That it's sort of it's sneered at by football fans a lot, and I've definitely been guilty of that. And football fans feel that, and I'd sort of defer to you because I obviously haven't been here that long to know that there is this kind of defensiveness, right? And within that, it's quite difficult because if something is then bad in the game, football fans are sort of scared to say it because then it'll get jumped on by the big codes. So then you get this ridiculous sense where quite a lot of the time you'll sort of something in the A-League will happen and it's quite good. And people will be like, oh my God, the greatest goal of all time. Like, no, let's just be patient here. Like, it was okay. Yeah. And it's okay to be okay. Like, some Premier League games are shit. Some Premier League games are great. Some games here are bad. Some are good. Like, and so it's really interesting to see that dynamic. I don't know if I've answered the question, but I can feel like that defensiveness, which I think is really interesting, that football fans here think that everyone's out to get them. So, like, if something doesn't work, maybe it just didn't work. But they're like, it's a conspiracy, but there probably is a fear, right? If you are AFL, NRL, whatever, like, football is the biggest participation sport here.
Well, it just it really underscores the provincialism of Australian sport, really, because there are these moments in Australian football, to use the word, where like the Socceroos or the Matildas will perform, admirably or inspirationally on a world stage, and then that will by extension create conversation about whether this sleeping giant is laying dormant and ready to explode, and then the systemic forces of AFL and NRL or whatever somewhat quash it. You see in the papers, fans are maligned or stereotyped or whatever, and there just seems to be this roller coaster where it's like, soccer, as it's spoken about here, is the most popular and most participated in junior sports. So, like, most families are connected to it in some way. I mean, as a parent myself, I'm like, I want my boys to play soccer, firstly because I don't want them to get hit in the head. I just think it's a better game. So they'll all play that. But then somewhere along the line, the bigger, the provincial codes here just take over, and
a giant Hoover, like a big Dyson.
They do, and it just reinforces itself. They bag the rights, they publish it. They're backed up in print news and whatever, and soccer is relegated to the margins, even though there's just like ostensibly a great foundation of support for the game from men and women. It just doesn't ever seem to materialise at a club level, at a week-to-week level. It just can't get a look in Australia.
Yeah, look, you'll know this better than me. And so obviously...
with respect to the way that it does get in, by the way, there'll be people listening going, it actually is good or whatever. I mean, it is good. I'm just talking at a mass scale.
Sure.
Getting the respect it deserves.
So I watched I don't know if you've seen that Ange documentary it's mainly about
I haven't
Puskas,
seen it, I want to see it, yeah. But is with Puskas, right?
Yeah. God. I mean, it's so brilliant. There's so much great old footage, and like both of their stories are amazing, and like this idea that, like Ange would drive Puskas around. Like, this is big old unit Puskas. He'd get a flat tyre and like Puskas would just sit in the car. Ange is like the best. He was one of the best footballers of all time. Yeah. Or like, he only had one window winder that worked. So Ange would open his window and then hand it over to Puskas. But then you saw, like, in the previous incarnation of the Australian Football League, like the crowds, and obviously the sort of ethnic links to the football teams, right? And obviously with that came problems. And I don't know how big the problems were in terms of, you know, violence and sectarianism and all those kind of things. And so I might be talking absolute bullshit here, but I just can't think it was as bad as football in the 80s in the UK. I just cannot think the hooliganism here was as bad as that. And if you just make teams disappear and then you create new teams, it's the 20th year of the A-League. In real terms, that is nothing.
Yeah.
And you sort of think what the A-League really needs to do is just relax for 100 years. And it'll be fine because there'll be history and shared history and grandparents and all that. If you're the CEO of the A-League, you can't just go, it's all right, guys, just give it a century, right? You've got to think of ways to increase participation.
Sports administrators famously look to the long term, you know.
Exactly. 21-20.
Yeah, that's right. Building custodianship.
It's sort of what you need because it is, if you look at Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup, so much of that and that outpouring of emotion. And I wept, and I have 2 young children. I'm very sleep deprived, and maybe it was that. But I was just like seeing that outpouring of joy because it wasn't just the people there and winning that football match. It was the fact that so many people have been to so many games and never won a major trophy. That, you know, their parents or their grandparents who first took them are no longer with them, and all these things that make whatever sport it is amazing, right? That like it is something truly extraordinary that exists that can like liberate that sort of emotion in us. But that can't happen if a team is only 10 years old.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
You know, so you just have to. So football here, because they changed it, and I don't know. Like I said, I just don't know. Maybe that those leagues were sort of on the downward spiral anyway. But by getting rid of all those, just a number of people will just go, oh, well, that was my week in, week out, but I'll just do something else. And there are, you know, you can see there are fan groups trying to mobilise and all those. And, you know, Western Sydney Wanderers have got a big, big fan base that looks quite fun. Auckland have done amazingly well. And, you know, from year one, that's quite amazing. But you're right, there's the potential there. But I guess so many people have tried to come in and fix it, if that's the right word. And it's clearly very difficult.
It's a really good point because you even saw the tifo for Crystal Palace was
amazing.
Was the which obviously is the thing that, you know, clubs need to win now. You need to win the tifo before the battle, before the game starts. But it was of a father who was hugging his 2 sons who had recently passed away. Then the 2 sons were at the football game.
Oh my god!
So the photo was
the
photo was
from the previous.
No. It was like it was a FA Cup game at Old Trafford like years before. Yeah. And this guy Darren Ambrose has scored a great goal, and it cut to the crowd, and this dad is holding his 2 young kids, and the kids have grown up now, and the dad died of cancer in 2017. But you're like, it was and the brothers didn't know that would be the TiVo.
Oh, they didn't
even know. And so the photo of those guys hugging after Palace had won the cup.
And Palace have been around for 150 years or something.
Yeah, 120 or something. But never won a major trophy.
So that's exactly like the history actually creates these moments. Yeah. You know, you just
got to stick with it.
You got to stick with it, and that's like you say.
Or in the case of the Bears, you just go out of the comp for 26 years, and then when you come back,
are they back?
They're back. I told you they'd be back. They're back
in the Oval.
We haven't found out if they're playing a game at North Sydney Oval yet. They're going to be based in Perth, so
that's tricky.
which is a natural partnership. I want to say just stick with football, railroad to the Bears, but I think football has probably informed most of my philosophy on fandom. I think I've learnt most from football than sports in Australia or even cricket. And you wrote a beautiful article for The Guardian a few months ago, I think, about football fandom, which we everyone wants to police it a lot, how you're meant to be a good fan, but your thrust, if I could surmise it, was basically that it isn't about winning and losing, it's about the away days and opening a can on the train, and that the football spoils the day out, and that you want to go up to people who are watching it when they're young and saying these are the best moments of your life, and that, when you look at Crystal Palace, you saw they interviewed people, Voxpop people in the stands, and they're like, I actually didn't expect them to ever win a trophy my whole life. That it's like it's cherry on top, but it's not really what it's about. It's like the sporting experience is about just, and it's such a glib cliche, but it is about the journey and the people you're with, right, and the ritual of it.
Yeah, totally. And actually, I think the first piece I wrote, when Tottenham got to the Champions League final and I had tickets for the game, and then it was an amazing semi-final against Ajax, and my dad is a big Tottenham fan. I remember going into the Guardian that next day and just sort of having this realization that my whole Tottenham love, because I'm a Cambridge United fan and my dad took me to that, but he's a big Tottenham fan, is basically about my relationship with my dad, right?
Yeah.
And so I was there in 2018 thinking, was it 2019? Going, well, I've got to watch this with my dad. And I don't think he cared.
They're great like that, aren't they?
He was like, all right, whatever. But then I gave my ticket to like a match-going Tottenham fan who needed to be in the ground for the Champions League final. But I didn't need to be in the ground. All my Tottenham, like my love affair with Tottenham is TV based.
Yeah.
And it's, and it's my dad ringing me up and telling me how good Jimmy Greaves was. So I wrote this piece, and if you say I love football and I love my dad and that's how we get on, like it's going to resonate. It's not like the hardest step. And obviously people like that piece. And so it was funny because then I flew back from Madrid. I went to Madrid. Was it Madrid? Yeah, I think it was. I went to Madrid with my mates for 2 nights. And then I came back on the day of the games. I'm the only person flying Madrid to London.
Yeah.
And then I invited my dad down, and then it was like 40 degrees. All the trains weren't working. And I was like, oh, Dad, you've got to come. So I've written this bloody article now. And he was like, I can't be bothered. I got him down to London, and then the trains were cancelled on the way home. He didn't get home till like 2 in the morning. I basically tried to kill my own father.
Nice.
But there was a moment like when that Merseyside derby was replayed and Everton drew in injury time, and James Tarkowski scored this volley, and it was such an unlikely goal, an unlikely moment. And then like a fan ran on people invaded the pitch, and this fan picks up the corner flag. He doesn't know what he's going to do, and he's sort of waving it like a lance or something. It's only for like a millisecond. You're just like we have no idea what is happening in his life. Not a clue, but just for that moment, this thing has delivered him like ecstasy. Like no drug, I've never taken drugs, I don't know, but I don't think any drug could give you that high, and maybe it can. Too old to start now, but like that real
Sounds
moment
like you're thinking about it.
where he was just like, I have young kids, I'm taking you to anything. But that's that real moment where he's just like, this flag, whatever, that is totally incredible. And that was just a draw, a football match, and so, I totally agree. And I think part of getting older is you do realise, especially being so far away, like Cambridge beat Newcastle in the FA Cup, 2 years ago at St James's Park, and just seeing the Cambridge fans there and thinking, I should be there, and I'm not there. But like, there are moments in time when you can go week in, week out to your football team, and then like life takes over, right? And some people manage to do that their whole life and they stay local, but like lots of other people, so many people live miles away, miles and miles away. I've got a mate in my football team now, as a Sunderland fan, who's literally flying back for 48 hours. I mean, to watch Sunderland lose to Sheffield United in the playoff final.
Nice, that's what it's all about.
But like, you have to do it.
Yeah,
you have to.
Well, I think like to that point, actually, is that there's something about pain along the journey, which actually you have to have it. If you have like, continued success for a period of time, you probably get numbed to the success.
Totally agree.
It's the pain. Like just even thinking about Ajax in the Eredivisie this past weekend, who lost. Like they needed 7 points from the last 5 games to win the league. They were 9 points in front with 5 to play. They finished with 5 points and they lost the league on the last day. Like that's one of the greatest collapses of all time in a top flight division. Like that will actually serve the fans well, in the longer term because of like this trauma they've been through.
Yeah. So I think Nick Hornby wrote Fever Pitch, which was an amazing book.
Yes.
And he went to uni in Cambridge. So he's an Arsenal fan, but he did a chapter on Cambridge United where they went on this run where they went on until Derby County beat it, the longest run without a win. They were in like the second tier. So they never won. And then obviously if you keep going this run, you keep having to go because this might be the moment. And the game they win is against Newcastle when I think Keegan was playing and Peter Beards and all this, and they were getting promoted and Cambridge won 1-0. And it was just that absolute moment of this sort of sheer disbelief. I agree. I would find it really hard to support a team. I don't know how hard I'd find it, but like, if you think about Man City, like what that title meant when Aguero scored.
Right.
And that emotion compared to like the FA Cup final, okay, they wanted to win it, but it didn't matter really because they've won so many trophies. And I would hate my expectations to be raised so high because then where is the joy? Like I was chatting to Kevin Days, a comedian and a Crystal Palace fan, and we had him on the radio before the final. And he had the same feeling that I've had in the last 2 Euros finals where England have got to the final and thinking, do I want to win? Like I want to win, but is this the end of the journey?
Right.
Like,
yes, I see.
This pain. And also with England in 66, those players are so godlike in my mind because I never saw them play. So I never saw them have a shit game. Whereas I've seen all these England players have good games and bad games because that's what sport is,
and you know the
right?
66 guys are the same, right?
Yeah.
They're immortalized.
They are totally immortal. And so do I want, like, does Mason Mount, does he deserve? Like, and like, he's a brilliant footballer. What a ridiculous thing to think. Like, clearly he's had as many good or bad games as Alan Ball, but like, it's different. And so you're having this existential crisis because you just don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like to win.
Yeah, well, it's how we romanticize things. I mean, this is kind of connected. You mentioned City, for example, and I wonder whether City fans might go, no, like, I'm quite enjoying this success if they've been on the road with City, you know, for
forever.
Like 50
totally.
years.
Yeah.
But City's success is, arguably fractionally synthetic owing to its like funding sources. I wanted to ask you about some of the, you know, the nefarious interests in football, whether it's like sports washing or, you know, gambling or whatever, you know, racism. But let's go with sports washing. Like, do you see it just as another nefarious influence on football and you can still enjoy it for all the reasons you've just described? You can follow Cambridge, you can get into League Two, you know, Wrexham, maybe that's a bad example, I don't know. But or do you feel like it's not as good as it used to be, or that it's like it's kind of it's mirroring some kind of late stage capitalist dystopia where everything is just getting crunched down to the, to an eventual monopoly.
Yeah, it's so hard, isn't it? Like, I have this row with a couple of great mates who are Newcastle fans.
Yeah.
And obviously I've written a lot about the ownership. We've done a lot, you know, and you know, the human rights in Saudi Arabia. And it's funny because I think if you work in it, you've got to be really careful. You work in the game, you look at it in a different way, and you look at it in a slightly more dispassionate way. And, you know, it's not my escape anymore, right? And obviously I don't go week in, week out. And so so clearly, like, I've interviewed people who have been affected by, like, the Saudi regime, for example. I mean, you could use Qatar and PSG, you could use Abu Dhabi and Man City.
Yeah.
And once you've chatted to someone like a human rights activist said, my sister was tortured, then you just go, well, you know, obviously football doesn't matter at all, or like the number of people who are executed, or it being illegal to be gay or whatever. And football is for everyone. And then you have these really difficult situations where, you know, women's rights in Saudi Arabia is, you know, like, it's really bad. And yet the funding in Newcastle's women's team is really good. And that's giving women a chance in a part of the country where actually, for lots of other reasons, there aren't lots of big women's football teams there anymore. And then you talk to your mate who, like, goes week in, week out, and it's like real bonding with his daughter about the game. And then you get some, you know, twat middle-class journalist in London going, I don't think you should support your football team anymore. Like, you're certainly not the right messenger.
Yeah, this is an immoral club.
You know, like, and so do I think their success in the League Cup is sort of tainted? Yeah. But I'm really conscious that me saying that is just like, if you're a Newcastle fan, it's just like, it's not they have no power over this. And then it's a question of, and I've sort of said I would walk away. And, you know, there are rumours about Tottenham's ownership. And then you go, oh, could I actually do it? And it's different for me because I live 10,000 miles away, right? And so it's not like this is your routine. And like North Korea are not going to buy Cambridge United. It's just not something I have to worry about, right?
Yeah.
But I think I think it's really, really hard. And I think, like, the interesting about sports washing is, like, eventually you can't talk about all these things every week. And certainly I think, if you take the Newcastle example, I think people didn't question Man City's ownership a lot at the start, or Paris Saint-Germain. So Newcastle fans feel slightly like, well, hang on, why is it just us? And then you get into, like, the whole north-south divide in the UK, right? And poverty in the north, and the sort of lack of investment in the north, which if you live in the south, you're not bothered because you just don't know, you don't see it on a daily basis. And so I just think it's so complicated. And I think I would find it really, really hard if a nation state, I mean, I don't think any nation state should buy a football team. Like, and I think the situation that has arisen to allow it to happen is sort of ludicrous, because I think you sort of lost your team, actually, if you become part of that. But I totally understand if you actually have a real job, like we were talking about it, it's not a real job. If your real job and it's tiring and it's hard and you put in the hours and then your one escape and somebody goes, hang on, you can't like this anymore, that is just bullshit, that's bullshit. And it isn't your fault. So I think it's so tough. And I think actually, to sort of wider point, if you work in football, it's so easy to lose touch with a football fan's experience, because yours is very different, and yet you are talking to football fans who are doing normal jobs, and then this is their thing that they want to enjoy.
And you shouldn't have to have like a degree in international relations to understand, the X's and O's of club structures and ownerships, and how fans are being, their love of a club is being juiced to produce soft power results for countries. You're just like, look, I work and I go to the football, and this club means something to me. And just because I support it doesn't mean that I'm now, for killing journalists. Yeah. But the fans are the ones who are being exploited, right, in that situation.
Yeah, I think so. But
you can understand someone burying their head in the sand, just going,
just let me watch football. Or just because it's not, because it's sort of subconscious. You talk about that Everton fan lifting up that flag. If you are a Newcastle fan, you haven't won anything since 1955 or 1970. They won the Fairs Cup in the 70s. This is what you feel, right? So I get told off for supporting Cambridge and Tottenham, and people go, you can't do that. And I say, well, okay, but like when they're on, I want them to win, right? There's nothing conscious in that. I've not made that decision. That's just what I want to happen. I can't take it away. So you can't take it away. You can't. That moment, we had a really good journal on called Sam Dalling, is a Newcastle fan who understands all the complexities of it, after the League Cup. And he said, look, when we won that cup, I couldn't help how I felt and what it meant to me and my friends. And, you saw that with Palace and all the relationship that you have, like you talk about. And that's why they use sport, right? Yeah. Because it is, and, the people who sort of defend the ownership will say, the Saudis have shares in Uber and you still take Uber. But you don't
the water
have
battery is great. Yeah.
But you don't have a season ticket to Uber, or you don't have a scarf or a tattoo. It's very unlikely to have Uber X tattooed on your scarf.
It's just anything. I take your point. I've got an iPhone, dude. That's very interesting.
And that's the power of it. And so I don't know. Like, if you peel back the curtain, there are so many issues that are depressing, right? The racism that continues, the misogyny, like the amount of drugs that football fans are taking at games, the gambling.
That is hectic. I saw that go in London. I was lucky enough to go see Chelsea Tottenham in the FA Cup semi, and I've been around people who love a line. Don't worry about that. But like guys on the train, on the way there, just so brazen. Out of the old knuckle. I was like, "Fuck me, dead." Yeah. Great, got me.
Oh, like, and the gambling is like, it's like,
oh yeah,
and so
But so you start talking about this now. You're just a Guardian journo who's lamenting and policing and virtue signalling.
Yeah, exactly. You're just because you're just so woke.
You're just woke.
But like, I suppose it's sort of beyond sport. Like, you have a finite amount of time for compassion, and there's so many shit things in the world. And someone goes, "Can you be a good person 90% of the time and still support your football team? You're not. You're right. You're not doing anything wrong. You'll be there after these owners have gone." It's really tough.
Yeah,
it's really tough.
Max, you speak so eloquently about all these things. Also, thank you so much for coming in. This has been, Pez and I wanted this to happen for a while.
That's okay.
We have talked football before. Like the first time we met you was at the Espy down the road, right?
Oh, yes.
You were coming in. This was like 2019, I reckon.
Yeah, I wasn't living
and Max, Max was recording TalkSport, like an overnight shift.
I was doing the overnight show.
That's right.
At
the Espy, and
that's a kind of test.
I was gonna ask. Some producers lined up like Z grade internet people.
Yes.
Like a rotating a cast of people walking in. You don't know who any of them are.
So Francis Leach, right?
Yeah.
Such a great guy. Yeah. And I just said, "Look, I'm coming. Do you know anybody?" And he's such a brilliant bloke, and he just got in touch with like everybody he knew.
Yeah.
And then it would just be like 3 till 4. So, like Santo came in, right?
Yeah,
Santo and Ed came in. And like, obviously, Santo's made these just incredible. And I'm just like, who's this old dude?
Yeah.
We'll chat for a bit.
You're just seeing these people for the first time.
Chat for an hour and a half and then they go, cheers.
Yeah.
And then, so you guys came in and that was lovely. Didn't have a clue who you were. We chatted, filled an hour.
I think we were on it maybe
pretty good.
2 to 3 in the morning.
No idea.
It was great.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would like you to speak as eloquently.
I'll try my best.
About your experiences with Australian, inverted commas, Sunday League and English Sunday League. I mean, it's not really called Sunday League here, but it's the same idea. Amateur league. So is it essentially the same except we have cricket pitches in the middle of our fields?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's funny, I was asked this, what's the level like? Like, are you the best player in Australia?
That's right. It's a great chance to sneer.
Exactly.
We did that with cricket.
There's
a couple of good little players.
I'm 46, I've got one knee. No, the standard is basically like, unless you're the best player, like unless you're the Premier League or the, maybe the Championship, the level of football here is, you'll find your level, right?
Yeah.
So a mate of mine, Kieran, played for Melbourne University in 2007. You probably remember him, Kieran Weeks.
Yeah.
And so
Weeksy.
I said,
Weeksy.
And I was like, he was like, just email them. So I emailed them and I went down and had a kickabout. And I just said, anyone know Kieran? A couple of guys who now play for the old boys team that I play for played with him in like the ones in 2007. I was like, all right, that seems good enough. And so I started.
Anybody know you down there? Like, did you was there any indication of like who you were?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. So I just started doing pre-season with them and just started playing for Melbourne University Bohemians. And do you know what? When I left the UK, I go back quite a lot and I go back for a couple of months in the winter here, summer there. And so I'm also going to see my friends and family and stay in touch from that. What I thought I'd missed the most is the football team. I played for a team in London called Polytechnic for 20 years. And I just, that weekly, that was my routine, more than going to a game, like just playing every Saturday. And I just thought, I'm going to miss that. And those relationships, those weird relationships you have in amateur sports teams where you play for 10 years with someone you actually don't know their name.
Yep.
They're just gigsy or whatever. And
gigsy.
And so just to find that and actually to find a squad that is really full of nice people.
Yeah.
Because, we've all played in teams where you go, oh, this is great. And then the WhatsApps, you're like, oh God, this is terrible.
Garbage.
I moved to like my vets team in London just before I came out. And so I was sort of managed the team that I played for. So you could curate it, get good footballers in, but sort of no dickheads policy. And then I was in this WhatsApp group, and one of the first things was like a meme of a female presenter and 2 female pundits,
Right.
And it was just like something like, I put my wash on at 40 degrees. And I was just like, oh, fuck's sake. It's so fucking depressing. It's just so depressing. It's like, God, I know we were all born in the 70s, but so I did a tot up and I just went, I looked at who they were and I went, just the 694 international caps between those 3. Like as a kind of, I wanted to call it out because, on the pod, we'll call out misogyny, call out sexism, all these things. Like you've got to be real about this. I say, look, I know I'm new, but just so you know. And there was another guy, Ahmed, in the team who said, I agree with the sentiment, but I did play for Morocco 3 times in the 80s. So actually it's 601 or whatever. I was like, that is a brilliant line. I was like, God, he was a good player. He was like 55 playing for us. But I found this team and I absolutely love it. We are still playing all age, so we're all mainly over 45.
Oh shit!
We've got like a 60-year-old centre back.
Oh, you must have some serious players. Then.
We've got some players. When we lose, I always go, on another day we'd have won, but that day has to have been in about 2001. Yeah, we've got a couple of players who are really, really talented. But we've won Metro 7. We won 2 years ago. We won Metro 6 last year and Metro 5. Okay. We lost on Friday night to West Side Strikers.
So, Max, people want to know, if you're in the public eye, people want to know, are you any good? Now, I actually came across, I searched you into YouTube yesterday. And there's a Soccer AM bit where you're practice at Bolton, and you're looking pretty sharp.
Fuck, I had a good day.
You're looking pretty sharp there.
And am I good? Not really. I can't move. But everything I hit on that day, I must have been 34, 35.
Oh, really? Okay, I thought you were.
But they had, Daniel Sturridge was there. Gary Cahill was there at the time.
Who was the coach?
Owen Coyle.
Yeah.
And they were just doing finishing, and I just because the the crew producers would have wanted to stitch me up. There are a number of those training sessions where I've been absolutely terrible.
Yes. No one wants the presenter to be good.
But everything I hit went in. It was just ridiculous. I don't often, but sometimes watch it back. But that is not an accurate reflection. I've scored more own goals for the Bohemians than I have goals. That's I've had to move back. I'm playing holding midfield now.
Okay.
But I can
you drop back as a
I
legs.
know where to stand.
Yeah.
Basically, I want us to play quite dirty long ball, and quite a few of the team want us to play out from the back. And I think at our level, we should just
get the second ball.
Give it Quinton.
Yeah. So anonymously, somebody has come across you and your team. Who's spoken to us and said Max plays for Max's team is really good. Like they're a good team.
It's very kind.
But they're all English, so they're cunts.
You told me this, and it's not true. I did a top. There are 4 Englishmen. There's like 16 Aussies.
That's enough.
You think the gaffer's English.
Yeah.
There's a centre back. There's me. There's a left-sided player who's just joined.
So it says more about the prejudices of the person who said that.
I am quite loud. There's me and another centre mid, the guy at the Sunderland fan.
So the general audio experience of playing against Melbourne Uni is some English cunt saying knock it long.
You've got someone from Sunderland saying ship. You've got that, and me just
that's
going
shape, right?
That's shape. And there's me saying, hit the channels. That's all you're hearing. Hit the channels. Next 5's important.
Yeah.
Right.
When a corner comes in, do you say away?
You say away, yeah.
Away?
I would say away.
Yeah.
Do you know the phraseology is different, right? So in England, man on. In Australia, you're hot. And I'm the first time
that's fucking Victoria.
Is that Victoria?
That's Aussie. That's Aussie rules.
Is it? Because
that's the Aussie rules lingo.
The first time I heard that, I'm like, that's like a weird compliment to give someone while I'm playing. Hey, my best years are behind me, but like, what are you saying? Now's not the time, Pete. You're hot. And also, they say it with such pressure that you actually have more time on the ball than you think. You think you're hot, and I just go, fuck this, I'm hot. It's like it's like you're holding like a hot.
But I never played down here, so
it's you won't get that in Sydney or like northern states. It's just AFL lingo, and it's like it metastasizes into other sports and corporate life and family life.
Oh, really? But I really I love it. There was a game last season we were playing this team who are really good, Barnes Townsworth, I think, and like I had to. I've never played 90 minutes. My knees can't do it. But I think a couple of guys got injured, and I normally I'll come off the bench after 25 minutes and play for like 45 minutes, and then the gaffer will take me off again. But like I played 90 minutes. It was about the 85th minute, and it was 2-2. Actually, we needed to win for the title to be in our hands, but losing would have been a disaster. And it was a throw in, and I went short, and I just, the hardest skill in football is to give it back to the thrower, and I just booted it like 20 yards out of play, and the centre midfielder went, "You shat yourself there, didn't you?" And I wanted to say, I wrote a piece about that. So I wanted to say, look, I've got a young child. I've got no sleep. I've got no meniscus in this knee. I haven't played 90 minutes for 5 years. I've had plantar fasciitis. I'm wearing orthopedic soles. I'm fucking exhausted. Had work last night and work tonight. But by the time I'd thought of all of this, he was running down the other end and I had to go down.
It was Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly. I'd sit down, I'd written it down. My chat was just like, "Oh, fuck off."
That's right.
But like, actually, there is something about that post-game ache, which is just, it is amazing. And then you get home, and then you have to like brace yourself just outside the front door and come back in and like really parent, like heavy parenting, because, Jamie's obviously, she's already let me go out for 4 hours. It was just, quite an imposition on, now 2 children. And so you sort of pretend you're not hurting, and actually like every part of your body is totally broken. And all you really want to do is lie down. I think I got a migraine like away at Westside Strikers. I came back on and the lights, it was like thrown out. I can't see anything. The sad thing is people didn't notice any like regression in my play, and I actually couldn't see.
Play better with a migraine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, before we let you go, Max, we are recording ahead of the Europa League final. I mean, how are you seeing it? Do you both teams are at gallows humor stage in relation to their season itself. Like there are every permutation is possible as far as I can see. I'm a Man United fan. I mean, I all Man United people are saying, it's just like, well, we've won things before, so we somehow have a DNA of winning. I'm not sure how relevant that is, but they're also, they can capitulate. Spurs can capitulate easily owing to their system and their DNA. So nobody has any confidence. Anything can happen.
Could be the worst game of all
but Ange
time.
wins in his second year.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
So I think all Spurs fans think the muscle memory of Man United will help them. And Tottenham have beaten Man United 3 times this season, so they've never beaten them apparently 4 times in a row. So we're fucked.
Right, yeah. Players think that as they walk into the ground as well.
Do you know what?
They've done it 4.
I'm just so sad that it looks like Ange will leave, whatever. Because I've just been brainwashed by you lot.
Yeah.
I didn't know about this guy, and then I came here, and every radio interview I do, they're just talking to me about Celtic. I'm like, I've moved 10,000 miles away to not talk about Scottish football. I'm kidding, but but I love the guy.
That's the one he's worried about.
Yeah. We once on Soccer AM, we played all the Scottish goals, and there'd been 6 goals in the whole league, and they were all set pieces. And then we played the funeral march. We always used to play the new songs. I'd never heard of the songs, like cool music underneath the goals, and the amount of and rightly so, just got so much abuse, so much, just I'm cancelling my Sky. You've ruined it.
Right.
I just love Tottenham to win and win so well that they go, and it's Tottenham don't win things. That's the point. They haven't won for 16 years. If he gets you a trophy, you just have to say, look, his league form over the last 50 games is terrible, but you just go, he's won us something. Give him another year. But because Tottenham expect to be at a certain level, and I wonder how. If they'd finished 10th, would it be fine? Because I don't know. They haven't been great. They have been bad. And I just really like it. I like what he offers. And he's not perfect. He can be really snippy and rude to journalists unfairly. He can actually be snippy and rude quite fairly, which I think is quite refreshing. But I'm sad whatever happens. But it would be a great mic drop, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's a great Australian.
Yeah.
And I think that... a lot of people like him, particularly here, because of the attitude that he takes to sport, and life in general, in that he's going for it. He kind of reflects how we like to see ourselves as a sporting nation. I do think, there's been a lot of revision in the footballing press around support for Ange. I mean, there was a lot of people who are deifying him now, who are very much at front and centre with wanting to get rid of him when he was at the Socceroos, when he was trying to do the same thing.
Really?
They knocked over Chile in the Confederations Cup. That was Alexis Sanchez, all these guys.
Won the Asian Cup.
Pardon?
Won the Asian Cup.
That's right. And even during that time, they were... classically in an classical Ange side, they were up and down in their ambitions to try for something more, and there were a lot of people who are in the kind of punditry in Australian football who didn't like the inconsistency or the roller coaster nature of it, and they were behind, they contributed to knifing him, and it's
but now he's our man over there.
Absolutely, we're so proud of him now, and we love the attitude that he takes. I mean, I think it's an awful shame that. It appears as though he's drawn a line through ever being with the Socceroos again, owing to the way he was treated. So I also hope that he, I follow Man United. I feel like if you look at it rationally, United, they shouldn't win tomorrow because they wouldn't have a team ready to play in the Champions League next year anyway. The new manager needs time with the squad to just sort out, to create something cohesive. But and it would be great if Ange got that title, mic dropped, and left some kind of iconic legend.
Yeah,
Spurs.
if you're a Spurs fan, you just go, hang on. Newcastle hadn't won for years; they won. Palace had never won; they won.
Yeah.
We're obviously haven't won for years, so we'll be the ones that fuck it.
yeah. Well, it's 50-50.
Yeah. You're right. You can't call it. You can't call it. You absolutely can't. And I'm just so desperate for Tottenham to win so convincingly that they stick with Ange.
Yeah.
Even if it's the wrong thing to do, because a trophy really matters. It's really hard to win one.
Exactly.
Yeah. And but I don't have any confidence in any of the people on the pitch or either side.
It's going to be 4-4 and 9-8 on penalties.
I can just see Romero getting sent off for being Romero after 68 minutes.
It's gallows.
And then Mason Mount scoring 2 late on.
Yeah.
So I'm sad about it already.
4-0 Spurs for me. Well, Max Rushton, it's probably symbolic of the times that we have to cut this interview when I think we could do double this time because we need to record cricket content that goes into India.
Do you want me to stay for it? I've got some strong thoughts.
I think a lot of Indians would be very surprised to see you on our we can't call it the IPL anymore. It's a big cricket tournament breakfast show discussing Rajasthan
do we
versus
not have the,
Chennai.
Do we not have
we
the rights?
received a letter from the BCCI telling us that they owned we couldn't commercialise their name. So.
Right, I see. Once I was... Sky had the Big Bash, and it was on at a great time in the UK because it was on in the morning. You just watch it, and I really liked it. And I was going into Sky, and they were like trying to like pump up the coverage, so they're getting other presenters of other shows to come and sit and do the half. They, TV go, let's do this in the canteen. Why not? Great idea. Why would you do that? You've got all these studios, and the canteens where people go for a coffee. But let's put a TV show. So they did in the canteen. Come and sit in the canteen, and we'll do it's like one team's had their innings and we'll just have a chat for 15 minutes. And like the host goes, what have you made of the first innings then? I was like, 2 hours on the train coming in. And I can't remember who was there. What's he called? Ryan Tenderscarter?
Nice.
He was there and someone else. I was like, you should probably ask. Like, I love the Big Bash, but don't ask me that question. And anyway, some arsehole in the Daily Mail was just like, is this what Sky's? They watched that bit. The half time. I was like, I can't lie. I don't lie as a broadcaster. I hadn't seen it. So I didn't know. And so it was just like, it was totally cringe. Max Rushton, totally cringe. Why is he analysing cricket? I was like, do me a favour. I was on the train. I was just,
you can provide analysis and reviews of games without necessarily watching them.
It was so funny. I know you have to get on. The last Ashes in this country. So I was at Channel 9. Yeah. I was like, you always have hope, and it's always stupid because we're not very good in Australia. It's something about the ball. You should look into it. And
we're looking into balls a lot.
And you're just there, and like obviously first ball of the first test, and you're like, come on England, let's get in, let's get a good, and you're surrounded by Aussies, and I hadn't been there long, and then was it Stark to Burns?
Oh right, yes,
and you're like,
yes.
They should just end the series.
Should
have just ended the series. It's just amazing. But it's back here, is it?
Yeah, it's back here.
We head out. Do you think you'll take any of it in?
I hope so. If if I can get, that's a long day, isn't it? I did go to the Scott Boland. I was in the Standard by midday. Yeah. When that last day.
Oh, we all were. Yeah.
Well, I was with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah. Did you come?
Were we?
No, I wasn't there.
No, we were at the pub.
Yeah.
We were at the pub after Scott Boland took the 6.
Yeah. I kept thinking, I'm such an optimistic cricket fan. I'm like, if these two can just put on 300. Yeah. Josh Butler's coming out. If he can just put on 200 with the tail, could have something in this.
Well, we should do it again during the summer.
All right. Yeah.
Well, come on next week if you're not doing anything.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
All right.
Just give us an hour of your time every week.
I will do. Thanks for having me.
Mate, our pleasure and privilege. I think Aussies are very lucky to have you out here. I mean we are, and it's to my embarrassment and chagrin that you're not presenting the football for Stan. You don't have to say anything about that, but that's just a joke.
It's to the saddest of my mortgage that I'm not.
That's what I mean. Mate, thanks.
Never say never.
Never say never. Exactly. Just Stan. Just get him back. It's clear. But mate, thanks so much for coming in. We would be great to do something again.
See you next week.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks very much to Max for that last hour. Wonderful to have Max in. A great man.
Right, your time now. Boys, actually, this one comes in from someone who calls themselves a 19 handicapper. It's called Australian Open 2025. Dear Hez and Pigos, in your most recent episode of The Circus, you mentioned that Rory McIlroy will be playing in the Australian Open in November of 2025, when in fact the tournament is to be played on the 4th to the 7th of December. Pedantic regards, a 19 handicapper. Tom writes in, Australian Open gaff. He goes, you mentioned the Australian Open golf is in November this year. I'll save you the car journey down there and let you know it starts on the 4th of December. God only knows without Dutton's 25 cent per litre excise reduction, we don't need to be spending any more at the bowser than necessary. Nick the Dick says, titled November is a different month to December. Hey boys, as a long-time grade listener, thanks to Brazil and Co on TalkSport, and following the smooth transition to the enthusiastic Circus disciple, I've often found myself yearning for the chance to deftly and casually correct the buffet of inaccuracies, falsehoods, poor interpretations, and outright blunders that can occasionally take the sheen off your otherwise addictive podcast. I've waited patiently, listened diligently, and bided my time so that when my Boys Actually moment finally arrived, I could bask in the glory of a Boys Actually folklore forever. So here goes. Here goes, as a quote, man of golf, I was utterly dismayed to hear you lead us astray with your confident yet incorrect assertion that Rory would be gracing the Australian Open 2025 in November this year. I think you will find, here goes, that it will actually take place at Royal Melbourne from the 4th to the 7th of December. That's in bolded, 2025. Tempted to give you a good champing for that. However, I couldn't bring myself to execute. So this is the next best option. No Trojan horsing here, Letchus. An old-fashioned simple mistake correction with an associated and blatant attempt of taking boys' actual pedantry to the next level, a lower level that is. Keep the gold coming, chaps. Up the Mighty Bears, up the Villa, up the Warragamba Wombats. Yours in sporting pedantry and misplaced confidence, Nick the Dick. P.S. Some constructive feedback, fellas. The phrase, pull your head in, is much more visceral than wind your neck in. You missed one there. Wink emoji.
Well, that's subjective,
I think that's subjective.
So, the Australian Open, because I ended up looking at tickets, and it is during the Brisbane Ashes Test match this year, which is it's going to be tough for golf to compete with that. Although McIlroy in town, that is going to help.
Oh mate, it must be tough. But okay, next one is Nata Napoli. Lads, as ever, love your work. You might remember me as the nonce who picked you up in your Giannis and La Masia pronunciations. Well, I'm back, as you two have had a 1-1 draw in how not to pronounce the name of the famous Italian football club that shares the name with the city that provides the sauce. And I'm going to say it this way, Napoli. I understand that our Aussie accents can get in the way, but what you've got to understand is that it's pronounced Napoli, as in I'm having a nap, and believe you me, I needed to lie down after this latest shameful chapter. Feel free to read that last part in Fox Sports News headline voice. Until the next email looms, Zach. To which I replied to Zach, because it was me who said Napoli. I said, fuck, I hope you're right there, Zach. Nervous times ahead for you. And then he's written back, that's made me nervous enough to add this postscript. P.S. I'm of course referring to... in the way he'd say it, Napoli, the city. In its original Italian, we Anglos called the city Naples, brackets Rome, Roma, Italy, Italia stuff. Ciao. Zach, I want to open it to the audience. I've been canvassing around. Now, the question isn't, what is it, Napoli or Napoli, and there's only one correct. I'm asking, is Napoli acceptable? Because if you're going to boys actually me like that, and that includes surveying people from the area or Italians more broadly around how they say it, if we're going to get into a Paris thing on this, then it's a little bit grayer than a slam dunk, latest shameful episode. This is how you say it objectively from one Australian to another. Okay, so I'm just opening that up. If anyone wants to come in, going to bat for, or if you want to double down on Zach, that's for you. But I'm not accepting at this moment. I'm not accepting. Going, oh, you've got me and done me there. Hollis Bowler says the title is Lukaku and McTominay debacle.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah,
right, boys. This, Ian.
Oh, okay.
In your latest episode suggested suggested that Caesar can't even write properly. Scott McTominay and Lukaku playing together for Italian side Napoli was somehow exotic and worthy of note. It must be said they were on the pitch together 37 times for Manchester United, 27 and 19 inclusive. Yeah. One of those games was even a 2-1 win over your beloved Liverpool. Regards, Hollis Bolus. The big fraud writes in. It's titled Lukaku x McTominay. Fraud here. Boys, actually, with the capitalisation, the lowercase mixed up as well.
Got it. I see. Yeah.
So ironically saying boys actually. Yeah. Dear Missy Higgins and Katy Perry's less musically inclined brothers, bit of roundball gear here from a low-key prem nonce. The chat about Lukaku and McTominay being, quote, fucking weird to me as a pairing really caught my ear. Scott McTominay and Romelu Lukaku were teammates at Manchester United from 17 to 19. Lukaku joined United in 2017 under manager Jose Mourinho, while McTominay made his senior debut in May 2017, having progressed through the club's youth system. They played together during Mourinho's tenure and the early part of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tenure. McTominay and Lukaku shared the pitch in 65 matches for Manchester United. Now, that's separately to Hollis Bolus, who says 37 times for Manchester United. Yeah. So someone's got a boys, actually, someone
37.
else there.
It was 37. I looked it up. The first one was correct.
During this period, they had 2 joint goal participations.
Uh-huh.
Thanks for letting me get that off my chest. As the missus said, surely no one cares that they got that wrong. When I explained to her while listening to you in the car, she's copped the boys actually about how much us losers do care, and I copped no action that night. Brackets 3 days. Regards, the big fraud.
Well, one thing I didn't know was the goal involvement, so we'll say. One thing, I wasn't sure.
That's a drive-by as well. Now, I'm surprised they had goal involvements, those two.
I wasn't sure they linked up.
Now, I was part of this.
Yeah.
I was part of this conversation. Right. And when you were talking about McTominay and Lukaku being a weird thing together at Napoli, like, my sense wasn't that you were implicitly claiming that they had therefore never played together. Never played before.
Right.
Or never played together before.
Yeah.
Right. Now, a couple of guys have come in 2 feet here, and I believe they're doing so on the basis of an implication that you have said they never play together.
They've misread what I was saying. I wouldn't say they come in 2 feet. I think they just feel like,
oh, hang on, I'm a low key prem nonce. It caught my ear. What's the other guy said?
There's been much stronger verbiage than that.
From others, someone wanted to get it off their chest. The thing I like about these boys actually is just the certitude.
Yeah,
people's like, I'm fucking coming in here, and you come in and you get it wrong.
Maybe people are when you start speaking about a sport that they feel like they know a lot about.
Yeah.
Then the ears are pricked for any mistake because they want to engage with the show, right?
Yeah.
So I understand the mentality going into that.
But they're disabusing you of an assertion you didn't make.
They've misunderstood.
Yeah.
What I was asserting. Yeah, that's right.
I think you're being generous saying a misunderstanding. They've gone looking for something that wasn't there. I'll be going in harder. I wrote back to the big fraud. I said, Pezza here, no real dog in the fight, but is it possible Higgos was saying it's weird to him in full knowledge they played together? To which the big fraud replies, listening again, yeah, I can see what you're saying and I'll take your word for it as the one talking to him. Play on. And then he goes on to say, hey, mate, this was like a day later. Just met Heels in Burley and he said you're wrong. Sorry about that. There's a photo of him with Ian Healy. But he spelled Heels H-E-E-L-S, so I corrected the spelling of that and he just wrote fuck. Okay, nearly there. Jay writes in, it's called, he titles it F1 DTS Nonce. Boys, what you actually have to understand is that no genuine F1 fan would give a fuck about Alpine's full name of BWT Alpine Formula 1 team. That is BWT, not BWP, as you so unintelligently let slip. This is me. This full team name cuckery is a branching behaviour from a comical snippet of an early season from Drive to Survive, which... quote, I've only held mummy's hand Will has unwittingly let slip was his road into being a massive F1 fan. If he wasn't too busy watching DTS reruns, he may have gotten past the initial fact that BWT is actually originally a German company. Please don't hold these under-the-bridge trolls who think they are clapping back to a high standard of those true F1 fans. Yours in vroom vrooms. Cheers.
Fucking hell, I mean...
So, I want to set people against each other in this as well.
Okay.
We've already had one difference in statistics from the Lukaku McTominay thing.
Yeah. Just going to show how fucking moronic both of those cunts were.
Now we're talking. Will says, Alpine, dear all, on last week's show you kindly read out my previous note referring to Higo's calamitous pronunciation of Alpine. The French Formula One team.
That's really good.
Mate,
that's really
gotta
good.
say, just a shout to some writing. We are, look, so some people will know, there may or may not be a book in the works for TGC. And we had this feedback from our publisher that some of our adjectives were too harsh and heavy-handed, which prompted a really long explanation back that that's the farce of it. Just adjectives that do not disproportionately aggressive adjectives are some of my favorite things.
Now that may or may not have happened.
That we can't
confirm if that's happening. Yeah.
This was followed up by your jovial and good human commentary on the pedantry of Formula One fans. In an unrelated matter, it was noted that whilst reading my previous correspondence, Pez referred to the Alpine headline sponsor as both BWT, brackets correct, and then BWP, incorrect, in the same sentence. Is it fair to assume that such a grievous error could be put down to tiredness, carelessness, or other such ailment? No doubt you're aware that sponsorship spend in Formula One totaled $2.9 billion in 2024, in large part due to the generosity of brands like BWT. Whilst this slip-up may seem minor and inconsequential to you, I'm sure it wouldn't be quite so well received by the good people of BWT and other such brands that help finance our sport, as ever will. Brackets, how I long to be held tightly. Yeah, I got no memory of that. Like, I don't know the names of any of these fucking teams. And I'm now that two people have said that I said BWP, I must have just like typoed it in voice, in passing.
I thought it was BP. The petrol station.
Now I'm not going to read this, but someone's going to bat for me on the English people leaving for the continent. They've done a full spreadsheet. There's percentages everywhere. Thank you to
really?
Lachlan. Lachlan's done a full spreadsheet. I mean, we've got to get out of here. At one point, he calls French dirty little sluts. He goes in a bat for me, and it says he says that yes, you can prove that English players leave the continent less frequently than other countries, right, to go and play. But it is changing a little bit with your Bellinghams, etc.
And your Tammy Abrahams. McTominay's.
Exactly.
Scottish.
Scottish. Two Chats writes in MJ's last game. Boys, I regret to inform you, here goes, that MJ's last game, which you spoke about last week, rather than being 15 or 16 years ago, brackets implying circa 2009, 2010, as you mentioned, it was over 22 years ago now. His last game was in 2003. Apparently, April 16 versus the 76ers. Not that I watched it. I was a toddler. Passage of time and shit. Hey, sorry, here goes. Cheers. Two Chats.
Yeah, well... That's a straight fact.
I reckon if once Two Chats becomes your age, because this guy was a toddler back then, he might understand that fucking 15 years ago, 2003 passes as 15 years ago, I reckon.
9/11 was sort of 10, 12 years ago.
In your late 30s, yeah, exactly. You could say 15, like if you're saying it in passing. Now, obviously, mathematically, it's not pedantry, etc. But that's a relativity of time thing. If you want to push back, I'm giving you options.
No, that's straight fact. It was 22 years ago.
Okay,
I've got no wiggle room there.
This is from Cliffy. And it's called Laurie Daly's Identity. Hi, boys. I know the Wagga Wagga thing has been done to death. However, given Origin is coming up, thought I'd tell you a story of my old man. He's from a town called Wantabadgery. Have I got that, Chuck?
Yep.
Wantabadgery. Said town is between Junee and Wagga Wagga. However, they generally identify as from Junee when asked, as the sun always shines in Junee and the birds fly upside down over Wagga. The Daly family is also from near Wantabadgery. So when Laurie had a great game for New South Wales, Dad would proclaim Laurie Daly was from Junee. When Laurie played like a bastard, Laurie was proclaimed to be from Wagga. Side note, when asked the difference, Dad would say, if you waved at someone from Junee, they would wave back. If you waved at someone from Wagga, they would stick the finger up at you. Cheers, Cliffy. Response, Chuck?
Yeah, like maybe. I guess that's just like people from the country, like would think city people act like that. So I think that's Junee's like equivalent of like
I see.
Wagga as like city folk.
Yeah. So you don't get that that country identity in Wagga from like more remote towns.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. How does that feel?
It's a big smoke.
Does it feel like the big smoke when you're in Wagga?
Oh, yeah, man. There's pubs everywhere.
There's some A-League stuff that's come in here as well, which shouts you out, Chuckster, but I think it goes for a bit long.
Okay. Well, that's the Circus this week. Thanks to Max for coming into the show, and thanks for you guys for sticking around for the Circus week on week. And we'll be back next week for more Circus activity, more Circus action, more Circus frivolity. See you guys then. Cheers.